Chapter 121. He obviously snatched it. Jing Hao retorted, but the moment he said it, his face flushed red. Jing Hao's eyes twitched, his eyelids drooped, resisting the urge to roll his eyes. Curiosity, fear, respect, bewilderment. A wave of killing intent soared into the sky, causing everyone's expression to change. Wu Guang gritted his teeth. "I'll do it for you now." He was almost 30 years old to be treated like that. "Keep it." Wu Guang waved his hand and casually cupped his fists at Kong Yu. "Thank you, Minister Kong. If there's anything in the future, just send a message to old Wu." So old. Especially when she saw Wu Guang's unfriendly gaze, she could only force a smile. It's their fortune to be recognized by the Heaven Shower Blade. "I hope Master Wu can take care of them. Their talents are not bad." Jing Hao continued to stare at his toes and spat out, "Ignore him. Don't listen to what he said about sections." Wu Guang snorted. "They just want to take a shortcut. They're obsessed." The spirit generals that they had created had huge side effects. "Martial arts is the right path for us." "That's right, murder, arson, robbery, brawl. Of course I won't do things like rape." Wu Guang's expression changed and his chest thumped loudly. "For example, this time, you offended the clan union. As long as you're willing to spend money, points will do. I can help you kill your way up to the clan union, and guarantee that they won't dare to show their faces in Immortal Constellation Mountain again. It's not like we can't talk about business." Tang Tian touched his chin as though he was talking to himself. "Too embarrassing." Jing Hao was expressionless, but his tone was full of helplessness and introduced to Tang Tian. "This is my junior master Wu Guang, don't mind him too much." With that he flipped his palm and 4 cards flew towards the 4 of them. Jing Hao continued coldly, "It's just a small matter." Wu Guang was unhappy. "Little Jing Hao, what do you mean don't mind me too much? Is this how you introduce your junior master Wu?" His tone changed and became very familiar. "Young man Tang, wait till we get to know each other, you'll know that I'm a reliable person. If there's any business in the future, remember to introduce me." Tang Tian was dumbfounded. This works. But now it seemed that there was no hope. The soft card seemed to be held by an invisible hand as it flew in front of the 4 of them. In front of these 2 shocking attacks, all of House Yu's will to resist vanished like smoke in thin air. Other than the sporadic sounds of fighting, the rest of the Yu family members all accepted their fate with a blank face. "Where did this guy come from?" "That's right," Jing Hao said solemnly. "They have to first use their own martial spirit imprints to create spirit cards, to form spirit generals, and then use the devouring technique to continuously devour and fuse with other spirit generals. But in this way it looks like the spirit general's strength has increased by leaps and bounds, but the spirit general's martial spirit is already extremely heterogeneous, and there will be endless trouble in the future." Jing Hao acted as if he didn't see it and continued coldly, "There are many idle experts in the association." Wu Guang flew into a rage. "Little Jing Hao, don't think that your wings have hardened just because you've grown up. Let me tell you, when you were young I bought candy for you to eat. It's a recently rising power." Wu Guang said with a face of disdain. "This bunch of people don't follow the right path and don't train their martial techniques properly. They blindly want to take shortcuts and make themselves neither human nor ghost." It's not just that." Wu Guang shook his head. "This spirit general is born from his martial spirit imprint. In order to control the spirit general, they will have a closer connection with the spirit general. When these spirit generals become heterogeneous, they will devour their master. It's been a long time since I've completed a business. If this goes on, I'll die of poverty." Kong Yu smiled slightly. "It's just a small matter, not worth mentioning. Master Wu is too polite. The blade has already rusted. You didn't pull out the blade just now, don't think I didn't see it." Jing Hao was calm as usual. Tang Tian asked straightforwardly, "I want them to not enter Immortal Constellation Mountain." Tang Tian did not care about anything else. He immediately ran to Han Bingning and the rest to check. Jun Akiko and the rest were already pale. They were rejoicing in their hearts. Thinking about it, if Tang Tian had released his spirit general just now, the plaza would have become a river of blood and no one would have survived. Jing Hao looked at Tang Tian's expression. He smiled. They can be considered to have created a new sect. Other than the Spirit General sect, there's also the Star Treasure sect and Blood Meridian sect. Our honorable martial alliance is the Star Treasure sect. We are more proficient in displaying the power of star treasures. An onyx soul is more proficient in developing the power of blood meridians. These are the two biggest sections. Other than that, there's also the ancient sect. They are obsessed with ancient mechanical techniques and are trying to revive them. There are many of them. In this world there are all sorts of strange sections. Fortunately, they were only lightly injured and did not have any major problems. Tang Tian finally understood. He nodded his head. Jing Hao was right. The purer the martial spirit, the stronger it was. He had experienced this firsthand. She cautiously maintained a distance. Wu Guang's blade just now had allowed her to witness the power of the heaven shower blade. She knew she was no match for him. And this guy was famous for being unreasonable. Wu Guang was like a deflated ball. As expected, he could not be entangled with this asshole. Luckily, Kong Yu's expression changed. Shanghai Qian's face was also full of shock. But more than that, he was happy. He could not help but lament. The young Master Tian had also experienced many things that no one knew about. The barefooted burly man was enlightened. He slapped his head. Poof! Countless dust flew out from his hair like smoke. Wu Guang was immediately discouraged. He pleaded. 800 points. Fixed price. For an expert like me, the appearance fee is too low. It would be too shameful if others knew about it. Spirit generals can be merged? Tang Tian was even more curious. He had heard many things that he had never heard of before. Jing Hao saw Tang Tian's blank face. He knew that Tang Tian did not know anything about the outside world. He explained. The clan union is a clan union. They have always been researching on spirit generals merging. From the looks of it, they have succeeded. Wu Guang waved his hand. He changed the topic. He looked at Tang Tian passionately. How is it? How is it? Do you want a business deal? Don't worry. I have my reputation. If you don't believe me, you can ask little Jing Hao. Kong Yu gave him face. Wu Guang was happy. He showed off to Jing Hao. Is it Senior Ghost Claw Gnome? The barefooted burly man asked. He had a stubble on his beard. His hair was unkempt. But he had a heroic aura. Everyone has 10 points. Take it as a small gift from me. Kong Yu had completely recovered. She did not look unnatural at all. The barefooted burly man laughed. Little Jing Hao. I haven't seen you for a few years. You've grown so big. Tang Tian nodded. Yes. He suddenly shouted. Minister Kong, please come out for a chat. 1,000 points. Wu Guang was elated. He patted his chest. As long as you give me 1,000 points, I guarantee that the clan union will not dare to step into Immortal Constellation Mountain. Wu Guang was about to pounce towards Jing Hao while howling. When Tang Tian suddenly extended out a finger, he immediately stopped and turned his body to look at Tang Tian's finger with a look of longing. Although the four of them were at a disadvantage just now and were not as eye-catching as Tang Tian, she could still see that the four of them had a bright future ahead of them. And she had wanted to use the four of them to pull Tang Tian over. I'll give you 1,500 points. Tang Tian shook his head. But you have to get rid of all future troubles. Wu Guang was stunned. He was overjoyed. His face was full of killing intent. Good. I will sweep Immortal Constellation Mountain and all the nearby clan union bases. I won't even let a rat go. Business. Tang Tian was stunned. Jing Hao's face quickly returned to normal. Why does Brother Tang want to find you? Are you stronger than Senior Ghost Claw? Senior Ghost Claw created the Fire Scythe Ghost Claw. What did you create? Little Jing Hao. Although I watched you grow up. You've ruined my business. That means you're my enemy. Wu Guang's eyes flashed fiercely. Don't force me to draw my blade. Wu Guang glared at him. Wu Guang turned and looked at Tang Tian. He patted his chest. This is a small matter. It's not worth mentioning. Ghost Claw was indifferent. It was as though he did not hear anything. A graceful figure flew out and landed on a roof not far away. Kong Yu, who was dressed in plain clothes, smiled and said, Heavenly Waterfall Blade Master Wu, how have you been? This is Brother Tang. He inherited Senior Ghost Claw Nong's legacy. He's also one of us. Jing Hao decided to shift his gaze. That thing the last time was Brother Tang's contribution. At this moment Jing Hao walked over. He bowed to the barefooted man. Little Master Uncle. Wu Guang's eyes twitched. He was filled with regret. Why did he remind this asshole before he brandished his blade? This kind of bastard should be chopped to death with a single slash. Even Wu Guang had to admit that he was inferior to Ghost Claw's claw. Tang Tian had such a strong helper. He did not need to do anything. Wu Guang was enraged. He pointed at Jing Hao. Little Jing Hao. Is this how you treat your little master uncle? Wu Guang's eyes lit up. It was as though there were springs in his legs. He jumped to Tang Tian's side. Oh, young man. You're really handsome. You're a beautiful young man. Your perfect insight can practically see through anything in this world. Jing Hao stabbed him. I can do that. Jing Hao had a helpless look on his face as he stared at his own toes. Just ignore him. Department Head Kong. Old Wu has something to ask of you. Wu Guang said. These few rascals belong to you. I wonder if Department Head Kong is willing to part with them? Jing Hao replied. But I can't see through your skin. Clan Union. It was Tang Tian's first time hearing the name. Yes. Jing Hao's face congealed. This has always been a taboo. A spirit general can fuse and devour other spirit generals to grow into a stronger spirit general. Ghost Claw's claw had shocked everyone. And the current him was like an ordinary old man, standing guard by Tang Tian's side, not revealing his mountains and not revealing his waters. The entire place was dead silent. To Tang Tian 1,500 points was too cheap. Ghost Claw's comeback cost him 1,000 points. And he could only maintain it for 3 days. He could not take it anymore. Wu Guang's smile froze. You're Tang Tian. The barefooted man raised his voice. He was surprised. He sized Tang Tian up. He was satisfied. Your foundation is solid. You have a bright future. Everyone subconsciously took a few steps back. Be careful of the profiteers. Jing Hao's cold voice came out again. My friends want to join the faction. But they are Department Head Kong's subordinates. What should we do? Tang Tian turned to ask Wu Guang. Everyone's gaze towards Tang Tian immediately changed. Chapter 122. Then what exactly is a Heaven's Road grade martial artist? Tang Tian asked curiously. Cancel the mission. Jing Hao tilted his face and said to Tang Tian. He is not reliable. Heaven Shower Blade Wu Guang Heaven's Road grade martial artist. Tang Tian immediately retreated, but 8 bronze men appeared around him, coming from different directions, suddenly pouncing on him. Wu Guang pulled out the broken blade from his back and angrily pointed at Jing Hao. Little Jing Hao, you are such an unfilial disciple who disgraces Master Uncle's name. I will teach you a lesson on behalf of my senior brother. The more reliable information was that Tang Tian was an honorable martial alliance person, but there was no more information. No matter how one looked at it, Tang Tian did not look like an ordinary honorable martial alliance martial artist. It was rare to hear such first-hand information, so Tang Tian listened carefully. Wu Guang's experience in Heaven's Road was plentiful. Tang Tian roared, welcoming the bronze fist he punched out. A Maori and the other 3 followed Jing Hao back. Such an opportunity did not come by often. And Jing Hao thought the 4 of them were still weak at this time. Staying in the honorable martial group would allow them to grow faster. Tang Tian was as slippery as a fish, rushing into the bronze man's embrace, but with a swoosh he drilled out from under the bronze man's ribs. In a moment the Shangguan family's door was crowded with people. In Heaven's Road, the Starry Door is the most important node of the route. But very few people know that the Starry Door is not fixed, just that its cycle of change is very long. Most of them are thousands of years long. Many of the routes explored in the past because of the changes of the Starry Door will be cut off and gradually forgotten by people. They are like small islands in the middle of the ocean, rarely visited and developed their own civilization. In history many constellations were annihilated because of this. The route was cut off. What was Tang Tian's background? Tang Tian trained while patiently waiting for Chia's return. Ah! How infuriating! Wu Guang was so angry that he was wailing and stamping with rage. However, it was not his turn to be complacent. Shwa shwa shwa, several sword lights bloomed. The copper swords in the hands of the thin copper men were extremely fast. Dong. It looks like you're a very ambitious young man. Why, you want to roam Heaven's Road? Wu Guang had an experienced look on his face. The power of Tang Tian's punch had clearly improved compared to before. Wu Guang scratched his head. Well, let me think. How should I put it? Oh, there are many regions in Heaven's Road, for example here at Immortal Constellation Mountain. It is a safe region and the development here is very thorough. But in Heaven's Road it was just a small corner. The constellations in the safe region all had a long history. Every constellation has many starry doors and some of them lead to unknown regions. And I am the man who opened up the waterfall channel. An Tangtian's spirit general, the skinny old man with such a stunning claw, he was definitely not a nobody. He is the heaven shower blade Wu Guang. Just as he left, the palm on the copper man's body suddenly spat out true power. The copper man lost his balance and fell to the side. Every day the training grounds were the most lively place. All the Shangguan disciples were training crazily there. The victory against the Yu clan had allowed the Shangguan clan to secure their position as the #1 aristocratic family of Immortal Constellation Mountain. Suddenly, a shadow fell from the top of his head. I must never offend big brother Jinghao. Tang Tian was not distracted by this. He trained hard every day and did not relax at all. With him as an example, the other disciples naturally did not neglect him. Today Tang Tian had established absolute authority in the Shangguan clan. Heaven Shower Blade Wu Guang, a genuine Heaven's Road grade martial artist. Before the Immortal Constellation crown had declined, Immortal Constellation Mountain also had a few Heaven's Road grade martial artists. But now there were none. The search for Heaven's Road has never stopped. Everyone is constantly searching for those annihilated constellations, looking for treasures, star rocks, spirit nuclei, advancing wave after wave. And the Heaven's Road grade martial artists are the best of the best. The so-called Heaven's Road grade martial artists refer to those strong martial artists who have the ability to open up new stargates. Just that they had just reunited and had to part ways, everyone was reluctant. Oh my god. Heaven's Road grade martial artist. Oh, it's quite far. We have to pass through more than 20 abandoned planets. Oh, abandoned planets refer to those planets that have no value. These kinds of planets are the most common in Heaven's Road and there are many of them. The environment of the abandoned planets are usually very bad. The most dangerous planet, the wind is like knives and I can only crawl through the cracks in the ground. That godforsaken place, I don't want to go there a second time. But after grinding there for 5 months, my blade techniques have improved quite a bit. Very quickly, the Shangguan clan gradually regained its former tranquility. Wu Guang's tone was arrogant as he used his thumb to point at himself. Wu Guang was like a deflated ball. He leaned over and said, "What's the point? We're all family, it hurts our relationship." Young man Tang, you'll know in the future Heaven's Road grade martial artists have a high appearance fee. Yes. I've made an appointment with Chia, to go to Heaven's Road together. Tang Tian did not hide anything and said calmly. The 4 of them did not have enough understanding of the points so they did not mind. But Jing Hao was secretly surprised by Tang Tian's generosity. Sounds powerful. Tang Tian's eyes lit up when he heard, "Waterfall waterway? Then where does it go?" The other bronze figure that rushed over from the side could not react in time, and immediately crashed into each other. But a ball of fist shadows had already rushed in front of Tang Tian. Dead silence. The shocked people suddenly remembered the name that Kong Yu mentioned, and remembered the meaning behind the name. Chamber of the 18 bronze figures. Dust rose up and the ground trembled. Many people think that there are no people in those unknown regions and that thinking is completely wrong. Humans have a long history of venturing into Heaven's Road, and in history there were many strong martial artists that ventured deep into Heaven's Road. Some came back, some stayed there and they reproduced there, and after tens of thousands of years, they developed a world that belongs to them. Is it because they were beaten like dogs by my master? Jing Hao's tone was calm without any fluctuations. Tang Tian stared at Jing Hao and Wu Guang in shock. The image of Big Brother Jing Hao in his mind was completely overturned. The various powerhouses immediately understood one fact, and that was the current Shangguan family was definitely not someone they could provoke. So on the second day, the various patriarchs all came to apologize to their juniors for causing trouble the day before. Godlike young man? Wu Guang was stunned and then laughed out loud and did not hide his admiration. I like that name. A young man should have such lofty sentiments and ambitions. Oh, thinking back in the past, my biggest opponent was my senior brother. I trained hard day and night and worked hard. Haha, finally. Bang. Tang Tian and Wu Guang chatted happily, and seemed to have a deep friendship, which was seen by everyone, And Wu Guang even had a fawning expression which made people even more shocked. Wu Guang did not stay for long and left Immortal Constellation Mountain, and began to sweep the surrounding clan union's strongholds. Jing Hao also had to leave. He was going back to his master. It was said that after Tang Tian presented the training spirit apparatus, they had substantial progress. This time Jing Hao was going back to train his martial spirit. The 18 bronze men one by one stood up and turned to leave. On the ground there was a human-shaped pit. This was the first time Tang Tian had seen a real strong martial artist. His strength was so strong that even Kong Yu, who had already stepped into the 8th level, did not dare to go against him. The Shangguan family's atmosphere had changed. "You guys are too shameless." Tang Tian's heart-wrenching howl reverberated in the chamber of the bronze men. The largest bronze man, unknowingly appeared above his head and suddenly smashed down. Heaven shower blade. Tang Tian was scared out of his wits. Upon seeing that all directions were sealed, he clenched his teeth, bent his knees and prepared to escape upwards. Wu Guang's tone was leisurely, fascinated. "Beaten like a dog." Jing Hao suddenly interrupted. Wu Guang's last sentence could not help but be proud. Tang Tian raised his head, his face was pale. "Is it very far?" Tang Tian revealed a look of yearning. Everyone felt that it was very reasonable. This battle made a Maori and the rest truly realize their strength was too low. Even the clan union's spirit generals were not their opponents. Systematic training was what they needed the most. And Jing Hao also guaranteed that they were in the base he would take good care of them. Tang Tian blankly turned to ask Jing Hao, "What is a Heaven's Road grade martial artist? Is it a martial artist who can go to Heaven's Road?" Wu Guang's killing intent, as though it was real, shocked everyone present. It was just a bold statement, but the killing intent pierced through the air, causing everyone present to be indescribably shocked. Tang Tian did not refute with Wu Guang's strength. He indeed had the qualifications to say that his strength was weak. But Wu Guang choked as though he was choking, his face flushed red. After a moment he regained his strength and angrily scolded, "Today I will help my senior brother take care of you." The heavy bronze man was hit by the fist and stopped moving. Tang Tian knew that big brother Jing Hao was a man of his words. Since he had made such a promise, he would definitely do it. Waterfall Planet. Wu Guang revealed a look of reminiscence. A very beautiful place. On that planet there are beautiful waterfalls everywhere. The locals are also very kind. A pity it is not a constellation and does not produce treasures. He clenched his fist tightly without dodging, his eyes blazing with a fighting spirit. He opened his eyes wide and stared back without showing any weakness. "Humph. Aren't you just a Heaven's Road grade martial artist? Just wait to be defeated by this godlike young man. Then you must definitely be careful. The strong martial artists and star spirit beasts on Heaven's Road are all very powerful. Your current strength is a little weak." Wu Guang smacked his lips. But Jing Hao's face was calm and serious as he nodded his head. "That's right, so Heaven's Road grade martial artist is nothing special." Tang Tian distributed the remaining points he had to the 4 of them. Only then did everyone realize in front of them was a very strong martial artist. Tang Tian shrunk his shoulder like lightning, who a thick and solid bronze arm brought with it a terrifying sound, narrowly brushing past. Tang Tian's hand grabbed onto the incoming bronze man's arm. Following the strength of the bronze man's arm, his body strangely swayed, crashing into the chest of the bronze man. Almost at the same time, at least 3 rays of energy brushed past his body. Chapter 123. The 3 big armies are all extremely strong. The Scorpio army and the Snake army are all ecliptic palaces constellations. They represent the strongest constellations. Their strength is not unexpected. But what about the Southern Cross army? The Southern Cross constellation is the smallest constellation, but it is extremely mysterious. Where did the mechanical techniques that they relied on to contend against come from? Who created this army? Where did they come from? The depths of the Southern Cross constellation? Bing blurted out. "Impossible, we have explored the depths of the Southern Cross constellation before." "No, wait. They are simply 18 rotten ruffians." Bing frowned, revealing a look of deep thought. After a while he shook his head. "I don't know. The captain's background is very mysterious. Everyone has asked him but he has never said anything." Tang Tian clenched his teeth. He was tortured by these people every day. He did not dare to imagine that the recruits of the Southern Cross Army actually had to pass through the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. Those people were so pitiful. Tang Tian's smile disappeared. He frowned. Her study room? Bring me there. Tang Tian said without hesitation. To any family, such an improvement was considered a qualitative leap. Young Master Tian had unknowingly grown to a stage that shocked everyone. Where is the recruit camp? Isn't it in the Southern Cross constellation? Tang Tian asked Bing. Uncle, is it like that? Tang Tian raised his head and asked. These two rascals have improved quite a bit. Their favorite tactic was to rush forward together. Their favorite way of fighting was to gang up. Tang Tian muttered in his heart. She asked him to enter the study room. She must have left something there. With the number 11 bronze figure that was as skinny as a bamboo pole, he was simply a peerless swordsman. Using a sword? You should use 2 swords to be worthy of your number. Uncle Qian saw the improvement of the youths of the Shangguan family. In less than 2 months, the standards of these youths had increased by a level. Yes, the main force of the army is usually stationed in the Southern Cross constellation. That is the headquarters. They rarely go out. Bing nodded. There are branches everywhere. Yes. Bing shook his head. But it is not on the same planet as the headquarters. There are 4 planets in the Southern Cross constellation. The entire planet has been sealed by the gray fog of time. Chia knew that she wasn't very smart, so she definitely wouldn't hide things very well. At that time, everyone thought that the guild leader was acting weird, but since he was the biggest, if he wanted to build it, then let him. Could it be that there are some secrets hidden there? Bing muttered to himself. The fuming Tang Tian returned to the martial arts practice field. He looked around with an unfriendly expression. The surrounding air pressure and temperature suddenly dropped. Fortunately, Chia was smart. Big 9 was bronze man number 9. The thing that made people feel despair the most was that it was as huge as a small mountain. Even Tang Tian, who had outstanding arm strength, wanted to overturn it was an extremely difficult task. What was worse was that it loved to jump high up in the sky and then sit down. Could it be that the Southern Cross constellation really has some secrets? Tang Tian asked curiously. Bing's expression became weird. There's a small base there built by the captain. Wretched, shameless, sinister. Big Brother Tian, the origin of your Southern Cross hardship plate is not simple. After the era of the 3 great armies, the Southern Cross constellation star treasure has never appeared again. If the Southern Cross army treated the Southern Cross constellation as their base, then the Southern Cross hardship plate must be one of their most important treasures. It is extremely possible that it is the key to the Southern Cross Army. After the Southern Cross Army was annihilated, the wealth and inheritance of the Southern Cross Army completely disappeared, and is still a mystery to this day. In the midst of Bing's complacent chatter, Tang Tian's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Without saying a word, he swung his arms and moved forward. You bunch of ruffians, just you wait. I will definitely break all of you into scrap metal. Tang Tian continued to read. Then take the sea route. Tang Tian said resolutely. Yes. What made Tang Tian grit his teeth the most was that the 18 bronze men did not have the slightest awareness of being experts. Their components definitely did not have the noble quality of duels, and definitely did not have the temperament of arrogance. Just now Tang Tian had suffered a solid hit. Uncle Qian, you were looking for me? Tang Tian jumped onto the balcony. This balcony was the highest point of the Shangguan family, and could overlook the entire Shangguan family. He waved his hand. Uncle Qian, don't be so courteous. Finally, in an ancient book I found some useful clues. The Southern Cross constellation once gave birth to a strong army, called the Southern Cross Army. During the 3-generation army era, the Scorpio Army and the Snake Army were the 3 strongest forces. In the final battle, the Scorpio Army won and thus created the Scorpio dynasty. However, the surprising thing was, after the Southern Cross Army was defeated, the Southern Cross constellation quietly disappeared from everyone's sight. In the next few thousand years, no one could find any information related to the Southern Cross constellation. Walking to the bookshelf, Tang Tian indeed found a letter that Chia left for him. Uncle Qian nodded and his expression became solemn. When Miss left, she said that if she did not return in 2 months, she would bring you to her study room. There were many hands, many arms and many weapons in the 4th, 5th and 6th bronze men group. How could they provoke such triplets? Tang Tian continued to read. Bing shook his head. I don't know. Tang Tian did not think much of it. If Uncle Qian knew that this amount of training was only a portion of his training, would he be scared? This place, it's so stressful. Shangguan Wei and Shangguan Zhu, these two rascals, immediately shivered and became 120% alert, and even their shouts became louder. But it was a pity, their performance did not allow them to escape this calamity. This question piqued my curiosity. Until I found the commander of this army, Meng Yi. The higher-ups of the Southern Cross Army are very strong, and gathered a large number of outstanding talents. And Meng Yi is one of the strongest, but his background is different from the others. Meng Yi's background is unknown. Seeing this, Tang Tian asked Bing without hesitation, "Hey, uncle, do you know the background of your commander?" Both of their faces immediately turned ashen. Tang Tian looked at Chia's graceful handwriting and was moved. He could imagine Chia, in order to help him find information on the Southern Cross hardship plate, spent a lot of effort. Tang Tian hurriedly asked, "Why?" 18 rascals, each of them can form a team, and there are still 7 substitutes. The Southern Cross Army must have an unknown mission. After my research on the army, I am even more certain of this point. Out of the 3 big armies, the Southern Cross Army lacks the ambition to expand. This is also very strange. Yes. Uncle Qian looked at the frowning Tang Tian, and suddenly felt some pressure. "I suspect, uncle, that there is a high possibility that you entered the Southern Cross constellation, or have some connection with the Southern Cross Army. I found the opening time of the Oblivion crack of the Southern Cross constellation, but you could not make it in time. Now that you have seen this letter, I am afraid that you have met with trouble." On the back of the letter there is a map from the Immortal constellation to the Southern Cross constellation. There are some places that are not accurate, Big Brother Tian, it can only be used as a reference. The establishment of the Southern Cross Army, this mysterious Captain Meng Yi, played an important role. I started to look for this mysterious captain's background, but the Southern Cross Army is too far away from us and left behind too few clues. Until one time when an ancient book was describing this captain, it mentioned that he came from the depths of the Southern Cross constellation. The matter of Tang Tian possessing the Southern Cross constellation was only known to Chia. Tang Tian looked around. His gaze landed on a symbol on a bookshelf, and Tang Tian's eyes immediately lit up. Southern Cross constellation. "Young Master Tian, you have worked hard these few days." Tang Tian swallowed his saliva. To a simple-minded, lively and hot-blooded young man, a place like a study was definitely a place that could easily be mocked. It was the first time Tang Tian entered Chia's study. Bing was not stupid, he had a deeper understanding of the captain, and once he thought about it he recalled many past events. With the number 1 bronze figure who was proficient in close combat, how could the bronze head not be polished? How could it not be used to dazzle people's eyes? After a while the training grounds had 2 more pools of mud. Tang Tian then heaved a sigh of relief and left in satisfaction. And young Master Tian spent a lot of time every day to guide them. He had endured in the chamber of the 18 bronze figures for so long, but until now he still had not found a way to pass. He had already lost count of the number of battles he had fought, but no matter what method he used, even if he could temporarily gain the upper hand, he would very quickly be drowned by the sea of bronze figures. The Southern Cross Army is most famous for their mechanical techniques. Even until today they still represent the pinnacle of mechanical techniques in this world. Being defeated and annihilated in history, this is very common. The investigation here was interrupted. Until one day I suddenly found a very strange problem. "Big Brother Tian, if you read this letter, it must be because I met with trouble in the Southern Cross constellation. These 2 years, I have been secretly investigating the information related to the Southern Cross hardship plate. The Southern Cross constellation has always been known as the smallest constellation discovered by humans. Other than that, there is almost no other information. Immortal constellation has been in decline for too long, and is too far from the center of the world. There is very little valuable information. I can only place my hopes on some ancient records that talk about treasures, and hope to find some clues." These few days he had been cultivating with all his might, and felt that he did not know the time. When Uncle Qian saw Tang Tian, he could not help but reveal a warm smile. "Why is the Southern Cross Army annihilated, and this bastard still exists?" Tang Tian's hard work was seen by Uncle Qian. Every day Tang Tian would lead by example, appear in the training grounds and train much more than the others. If not for the young Master Tian's stimulation, How would these fellows be so hardworking? Tang Teng and continued to read. Bing also floated out and came over to read. But so cool. I know Big Brother Tian, you will definitely come to find me, but no matter what, you must be careful. Chia's study was very big, and in the middle there was a desk, and it was slightly spacious. All four sides were bookshelves sticking to the wall, and every bookshelf was filled with all sorts of books, many of which were yellowed and old and looked very old. The letter ended here. Young man, don't be too sad. Big Nines but has the reputation of a chrysanthemum pressing against the sea. This sentence means, it presses against the chest like the sea. So, you don't have to be too sad. I know this feeling is not good, but every young man who grows up to be a man needs to experience this kind of painful realization. I will do it again tomorrow. Oh, it's decided. The two of you come over, I want to see your improvement these 2 days. Tang Tian said with an unfriendly expression. Chapter 124. Be careful, there used to be many star spirit beasts roaming around here. Bing reminded Tang Tian. I have checked, this is now a hunting spirit region. You have to pay attention to Yaya, although the Bud Spirit General's power is weak, but it is very agile. When this ball of mist flew in front of Tang Tian, it was already like a wall of mist crushing towards Tang Tian. Tang Tian heard it and became excited. What method? Bing showed an expression of, it has nothing to do with me, but pointed behind Tang Tian. Walk 200 meters backwards, turn right. Bing took the route, looked at it carefully for a long time and shook his head. The position is wrong. He did not continue to train in higher-level martial techniques, but continued to train in the concussion fist, which he had already trained to perfection and cultivated a killing technique. Bing's eyes widened and said unkindly, are you questioning the familiarity of an elder of the army with the army encampment? The position of Southern Cross constellation is slightly off. Bing said seriously, although the star door will change, but the position of the constellation should not have too big of a change. Wherever the mist passed, the ground would be covered with a layer of frost. Seeing that Sai Lei was about to speak, he stared and raised his voice. Don't talk nonsense with me. Go quickly. How is it not easy to walk? Tang Tian asked. Tang Tian raised his arms, Sai Lei screamed and flew into the pool. Without saying a word, Tang Tian carried Sai Lei and walked towards the direction Bing pointed. Wash up properly. If you make any more noise, don't even think about touching these mechanical weapons in the future. The spirit snake's speed was faster than Tang Tian thought. Very quickly, it appeared in front of him. The snake's body was about 3 meters, as thick as an adult's arm. The snake's body was covered with a layer of fine bronze scales. These fine bronze scales formed a unique pattern, but what made Tang Tian's heart tremble was the snake's head. Bing looked up to the sky, revealing a pondering expression, and suddenly said, who knows, after all, so many years have passed, maybe those star spirit beasts in the past are no longer here. I still have to go to the actual site to be clear. Bing rolled his eyes. I already said that road is not easy to walk on. Yaya's size didn't change much, but the patterns on its armor became clearer. However, the most obvious change was the small flag on its back. The burning of the Fornax gauntlet caused a huge change in Tang Tian's feelings towards the treasure. In the past, secret treasures were just treasures in his eyes, but now he treated them more like living beings. Sai Lei scolded, what are you doing? Don't waste my time. He selectively ignored the loss he had suffered at Sai Lei's hands. Leaving the Shangguan family, Tang Tian found a secluded corner and entered the martial spirit chamber, then entered 3 Spirit City. Tang Tian was immediately on guard. However, it wasn't that he hadn't improved in the past few days. Just based on its chi, the star spirit snake in front of him was of a higher level than the other star spirit beast he had met before. Enter the spirit region from the martial spirit hall. There was a road in the soul region that led directly to the headquarters encampment. In the past, there were often people who used it. However, that road wasn't easy to walk. Bing explained. Tang Tian's face changed. Old soldier. Tang Tian frowned. If it was in the past, he would definitely have disdained Bing's words. However, after struggling in the chamber of the 18 bronze figures, Tang Tian understood how powerful the old soldier was. From Bing's tone, Tang Tian could tell that there was definitely a mechanical engineer who had offended him. Tang Tian took up a defensive stance and stared at the star spirit snake in front of him. Voila, countless water splashed out. Suddenly Yaya quietened down. The small flag on its back also stopped waving. It bent its waist and stared in front of it with a look of alertness. Tang Tian secretly clicked his tongue. He was somewhat impressed. Tang Tian did not retreat. The star spirit snake in front of him allowed him to have an intuitive assessment of the danger ahead. If he could not even handle this star spirit snake, then he would not be able to go deeper. The road ahead would only be more dangerous. Oscillation. His goal was to comprehend the true meaning of oscillation. The hunting spirit region was filled with danger. Occasionally he would meet martial artists who came to hunt for spirit nuclei. However, the direction that Bing was pointing in was deserted. Tang Tian actually did not meet a single martial artist. Then you better say goodbye to them. Bing reminded Tang Tian. This time, we might be staying in the spirit region for a long time. Hey Sai Lei! Tang Tian shouted. Sai Lei did not seem to hear him. Tang Tian had no choice but to raise his voice and shout again. He had personally experienced how powerful this woman was. Are you for real? Tang Tian looked at Bing in disbelief. Stop pretending. Tang Tian saw Sai Lei's expression. He raised his hand and acted as though he was going to stop her. In the middle of every feather of the blue peacock, there was an additional thin silver thread. A surge of power came from the armor. Tang Tian felt his entire body brimming with power. Tang Tian nodded his head. He did not say anything. The blue peacock appeared on the surface of his body. He had no choice but to lower his head. Tang Tian nodded his head. That's right, that's right. He did not know if it was because of this thought, but the connection between Tang Tian and the star treasure became even closer. Tang Tian's world opened up to a whole new window. Tang Tian's expression was calm and collected. He bent his waist. His right fist clenched in front of him. He grabbed the air. Wung, countless vibrations appeared to be grabbed into his hand. In the middle of the triangular snake head, there was a human face. Sai Lei then heard it. Her eyes slowly regained their focus. Upon seeing Tang Tian, she said, "You're here." She turned and left. Tang Tian's shriveled money bag suddenly became full again. Bing did not care about Tang Tian. He muttered, "The starry door can change. I have never been to a mortal constellation before. But I think if you want to return to the headquarters encampment, there is a way." The clothes on her body had been changed. It was very dry. Her wet hair was draped over her shoulders. Her face seemed to be stained with a layer of water vapor. Her originally beautiful face had an additional indescribable gentleness. Furthermore, her timid expression made her look even more pitiful. Tang Tian was embarrassed. You see, Chia said it too. There are many places that are not accurate. Sai Lei jumped in fright. She immediately ran to sleep. It's the star spirit snake. Bing reminded Tang Tian. Sai Lei saw Tang Tian. It was as if she did not see him. She was mumbling to herself. This young lad did not slack off at all. Suddenly the star spirit snake spat out a ball of mist. The moment the mist left the snake's mouth, it expanded rapidly. The surrounding air started to vibrate. Ghost Claw and Wu Guang gave Tang Tian a shock that he had never experienced before. It was the first time he understood that a true martial technique could be so strong. Upon seeing that, Tang Tian frowned. Without saying a word, he shot forward and picked Sai Lei up. He turned and asked Bing, "Where's the pool? Now go and sleep." Tang Tian raised his other hand. He stopped the anxious Sai Lei from speaking. His tone was unquestionable. "Don't bargain with me. If you die from exhaustion, I'll lose a lot." "That's great." Tang Tian was overjoyed. He raised his arms and cheered, "Let's go. Let's go." A ray of red light flashed in the distance. 6th level. This woman won't go crazy, right? Tang Tian asked Bing worriedly. Sai Lei, who was about to scold him, immediately shut up. Tang Tian's words struck her Achilles' heel. Not letting her touch the mechanical weapons, that was worse than killing her. Tang Tian looked at the scattered parts of the mechanical weapons beneath his feet. In this period of time, Sai Lei had dismantled countless mechanical weapons and the parts were everywhere. This woman was crazy. Tang Tian felt that Bing was right. He went to bid farewell to Uncle Qian. Uncle Qian guessed that Tang Tian was going to look for Missy. He did not hold him back. Instead, he gave Tang Tian many star rocks and spirit nuclei. The star spirit snake's cold eyes stared intently at Tang Tian, that expressionless face, seemed to be filled with a vicious aura. The surrounding temperature dropped. Snowflakes started to fall around the star spirit snake. After saying that, Tang Tian turned and left. Sai Lei struggled in Tang Tian's hands. But Tang Tian did not care. This woman did not care about her life. He saw that Sai Lei's eyes were bloodshot. He knew that she had not slept for many days. Sai Lei immediately became obedient. In this period of time, Tang Tian insisted on using his silver martial spirit to nourish the blue peacock martial spirit. These star spirit beasts absorbed the ancient martial spirit shards. That's why they have human faces. Bing's tone became serious. He lowered his voice. You have to be careful. Their powers are much stronger than normal star spirit beasts. Try it. If you can't run, we can plan this out. There was indeed a pond. It was flowing water. There was a bronze waterway. The water flowed into the pond. Following that, a rustling sound could be heard. Not long after, Sai Lei was done bathing. But looking at Sai Lei, who did not look like a human or a ghost, Tang Tian almost could not recognize her. Messy hair and dirty face. Her clothes were dirty and torn. She was comparable to Wu Guang. He was actually extremely tired. Her mind was in a daze. How did this fellow become so fierce? Coming out of the base, under Bing's guidance, Tang Tian started to head deeper into the spirit region. As though it was because of returning to the old haunt, Yaya became extremely lively. He kept on shouting. Three Spirit City was no different from the last time he left. But after the incident with the Lin family, the city seemed to have withered a lot. Even the people on the streets seemed to have lessened. Tang Tian did not attract anyone's attention. He first returned to the military warehouse. Young lad, I couldn't tell. You're so domineering. Bing was surprised. Seeing that Sai Lei had gone to sleep, Tang Tian and Bing went to investigate the terrain. Tang Tian found Sai Lei in the military warehouse. Wrong position? Tang Tian was startled. Bing was experienced and knowledgeable. These people are like that. When they meet something that they are obsessed with, they will not care about their lives. A few thousand years ago, the mechanical engineers were like that. The current mechanical engineers are still like that. In the past, only old soldiers could pass through that path. Bing sized up Tang Tian. He raised his eyebrows. Young lad, you're still far from it. The blue peacock became even stronger. Tang Tian's face was as it should be. Of course. Don't you see who it is? A godlike young lad. What can't he take down? Chapter 125. Sai Lei, who was full of gossip, shouted unwillingly. Who Tang Tian punched out. The air around Tang Tian started to vibrate rhythmically. The vibrations caused the air to ripple, and Tang Tian's figure became blurred and distorted. The low-cut collar was completely unable to wrap around her full breasts, hot and sexy. She nonchalantly combed the bangs in front of her forehead, regaining her pure and enchanting eyes, flashing with an unfathomable light aura. Do you want to consider the mechanical weapon? Sai Lei's voice came from behind them. After sleeping, she had completely recovered. The blood veins in her eyes had disappeared, and she did not have the slightest bit of muddle-headedness, and had once again become the astute and powerful Sai Lei. And I miss her a lot. I wonder how she is. But I'm not too worried. Chia has always been stronger than me and smarter than me. I have complete confidence in her. Tang Tian's face revealed a look of reminiscence, but immediately he turned his face and made a face at Sai Lei. Young lady, do you think a godlike young man will blame himself? Also, what was that? You have already worked hard. This kind of words is not suitable for me. The sudden disappearance of the fog wall caused the star spirit snake to be shocked. The star spirit snake that was originally about to rush forward suddenly retracted its upper body and revealed a defensive posture. Countless vibrations and ripples converged on his fist, as though his fist was pulling on a bunch of thin threads. What worries can I have? Tang Tian regained his senses and laughed out loud. Suddenly he returned to the time in Star Wind City, day after day, the boring and tedious training. Because he did not want others to laugh at him, he would usually train alone in the desolate mountain people. Chia would often run over to accompany him, but most of the time he was alone. No way. Bing cut in and explained, this route was actually in the army and was not a secret. Many people would walk on this route, but the army had a clear ban. Because this route leads to the heart of the headquarters, to the defense, it was a hidden danger. However, there were many people who slacked off, and they continued to do so despite being prohibited. At that time, many people were punished. After that, it was the leader who came out and let the mechanical engineers create many traps. As long as they controlled the mechanical weapons, they would be attacked. Tang Tian's heart shivered. An extremely cold qi drilled into his fist. His crane body energy was actually unable to dissolve it immediately. It took a full 3 seconds for the crane body energy to dissipate the chill. Tang Tian's expression was very ugly. He snorted, unconvinced. "I can kill it." After saying that, he immediately got up and fled. Tang Tian scratched his head, feeling a little embarrassed. "I used to have bad grades, so I had to repeat a few years." Those fine ripples appeared again, and the surrounding air also began to vibrate visibly. He carefully felt the vibrations. His outstanding intuition made him extremely sensitive to every change in his surroundings. His understanding of vibrations was much deeper than before. And then, Bing's face revealed a look of ridicule. "This is the first star spirit beast that you have met, and I can guarantee that it still has other killing techniques." "That's right." Bing's face revealed a look of reminiscence. "In the past we would meet a lot of them. Don't look down on the ancient martial artists. Although their martial techniques were not as complicated as now, there were many patterns, simple and unadorned, but the power was rather astonishing. And these star spirit beasts' bodies were already very strong, and were able to unleash the full power of these martial techniques." Tang Tian was stumped by this question. "What are you thinking about?" "Actually, I don't know what I'm thinking about, but I'm thinking about the times when I was training." Tang Tian found Bing and expressed his thoughts. "Let's go back first." Bing appeared behind Tang Tian. "Tia, I'm coming." The true power in his body moved and he clenched his fist. Outside the base, on top of a towering stone pillar, another voice shouted in Tang Tian's heart. "When you were training in the past." Sai Lei suddenly became interested. "You must have been very powerful in the past. Were you always number 1 in the school? Top 3? Hey. Finish talking before you leave. You can't be like this, hanging halfway, that's the most annoying." Resting his elbows on his knees, Tang Tian looked at the sky far away, lost in thought. He had been improving every day, but this time he felt that he had reached a bottleneck. The clear and crisp sound of glass breaking, the fog wall crumbled, and disappeared at an astonishing speed in the air. "Stop it." Sai Lei rolled his eyes. "You're thinking about Chia. Don't blame yourself, you've already worked very hard. Hey, sitting here alone, what's on your mind?" Sai Lei casually sat beside Tang Tian and teased him. A godlike young lad doesn't look like someone with something on his mind. Hearing that, Tang Tian slowly retreated. The star spirit snake also knew that Tang Tian was not to be trifled with, so it stood at its original position and did not chase after him. Dusk. Tang Tian was still in disbelief and mumbled. "If I had known, I would have tried it today. It was time. Wouldn't it be better to just block it? Your commander's way of thinking is so weird." Tang Tian did not understand. "What killing technique?" Tang Tian raised his head and looked at Bing. Cough. Tang Tian did not know how to explain and his own dark history. If it landed in Sai Lei's hands, it would be too dangerous. He pretended and said, "It's almost time to rest, I'm going to start training." Back at the base. Just like that, sitting on the mountain peak, watching the night sky darkening, watching the moon rising and becoming brighter. "There's no good way, you have to open up this path yourself." Bing shook his head. "I don't have any good ideas to think of. Luckily the base is still intact. With your current progress you just need to spend some time. But this is already the shortest path." There was no exhalation, no explosion, just a quiet punch. Bing. The fist brought along countless ripples, quietly imprinting on the fog wall. Tang Tian secretly clenched his fist. Sai Lei, who was in his normal state, immediately made Tang Tian feel the pressure and had a slight headache. All these fine ripples were formed by the true power vibrations. Tang Tian had spent a lot of effort on analyzing the true power vibrations, and his improvement was obvious. But now he had reached a bottleneck. True power was like a string, its vibrations was the source of the vibrations. Suddenly, a fragrant wind blew, and there was one more person beside him. He had just come out from the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. His entire body was drenched in sweat, sweat dripping down his chins. His hurried breathing gradually calmed down. The anger from being ganged up on by 18 assholes also gradually subsided. I don't know. Bing's expression became serious. These star spirit beasts have all absorbed the ancient spirit general fragments. Don't look down on these ancient spirit general fragments, although they are not high level and are very fragmented, but they usually contain the martial technique imprints of the martial artist when he was alive. Once these star spirit beasts absorb these ancient martial spirit fragments, these martial technique imprints will also be absorbed by them. That was Tang Tian's problem. His true power was unable to withstand any stronger vibrations. He needed to let his true power become stronger and more condensed, stronger and more tenacious, thicker and more solid to be able to explore further. Such a scene could not be said to be magnificent and colorful, but it seemed to have the power to calm people's hearts. The mechanical weapons here are very outstanding. If you guys are not satisfied, coincidentally I have some insights recently. The ancient spirit beads that you gave me the last time, I have not used them. I can try to create a new generation of mechanical weapons. Sai Lei's eyes lit up with a hint of fanaticism. You can use it in actual combat and provide me with feedback and information. The ripples that were lingering around Tang Tian were attracted by Tang Tian's fists, and quickly gathered towards Tang Tian's fists. Her tone changed. Then what are you thinking about alone here? Tang Tian escaped even faster. True power. Not knowing if it was because of the rays of the setting sun, or because of the young man's flamboyance, Sai Lei's mind was distracted for a moment. Her long eyelashes drooped down, hiding the pure and enchanting world. She snorted. Egomaniac. I want to see how far you can go. Uncle, let's begin. I have long wanted to experience the ancient martial techniques. Using battle to nurture battle, it sounds like an expert's style. The spirit region's dusk was different from normal planets. The sky was a faint blood red color. The sunset glow was like strands of red seaweed hanging in the sky. The orange-yellow setting sun slowly set, and the amber moon quietly rose. Every time Sai Lei's eyes revealed a fanatical look, the pressure that enveloped Tang Tian's heart would immediately disappear. Stayed back for so many years? Sai Lei was stunned. She could not believe her own ears, her face looking like she had seen a ghost. No way. Which school is your school, to be so strong that even with your standard you can only stay back a year? Oh my god. There is such a strong school in this world. I actually did not know. You must tell me. Tang Tian stared intently at the star spirit snake. The star spirit snake also stared intently at Tang Tian, both of them in a stalemate. Tang Tian was stunned. After a long while he stammered, "You mean these star spirit beasts know martial techniques?" His way of thinking has always been weird. Bing waved his hand. "If you do not use the mechanical weapons and rely on your own strength to pass through this road, you will not be punished. Leader thinks that this kind of action should be praised." Sai Lei was stunned. "Not suitable for you?" Tang Tian stopped, his face full of perspiration, mist rising, but he did not feel it. His head lowered, his gaze staring intently at his own fist. Bing glanced at him. "Relax, you will have plenty of chances." The afterglow of the setting sun shone on the young man's untamed face. Clenching his fist, he bent his thumb and pointed at himself, arrogantly saying, "Godlike young man is destined to become the strongest martial artist. In my dictionary, how can there be words like 'you have already worked very hard'?" But this string, its thickness, toughness and hardness, all decided the intensity of the vibrations it could withstand. "Then what do we do now?" Tang Tian looked at Bing. "Such a powerful cold qi." Chapter 126. Using battle to nurture battle. The effect was the best. This brat, as expected, has some skills. Idiot. The ripples converged at an astonishing speed, and a transparent ball of light quietly and quickly formed in the snake's mouth, and was immediately swallowed. "You still have the strength to fight?" Bing mocked. Tang Tian stared at the star spirit snake in front of him. The last time he retreated, Tang Tian was still brooding over it. He did not expect to meet it again, and he was immediately excited. The snake's taut tail suddenly became soft in mid-air, like a steel whip. It curled towards Tang Tian's neck. The star spirit snake in mid-air. Without any warning, the star spirit snake's eyeballs suddenly popped out, and its entire body froze. If not for the blue peacock blocking, his entire body would have been covered with a layer of ice. The cold air around the star spirit snake suddenly became dense, and suddenly a cold light from below Shua went straight for Tang Tian's face. This was Tang Tian's new discovery. "Do you accept star spirit beasts here?" Tang Tian asked. The star spirit snake's momentary confusion to Tang Tian was the best opportunity. Hearing that, the shop assistant looked at Tang Tian from head to toe, and his eyes constricted. Tang Tian's body still carried the killing intent from killing the star spirit snake, and the shop assistant knew how powerful it was and immediately said, "Yes, of course we do. I wonder what level of star spirit beast you hunted? Let's start with you." If it was before, Tang Tian would definitely be at a loss when faced with such a situation. But inside the chamber of the 18 bronze figures, being at a disadvantage, getting hit etc. was normal. At this time the most important thing was to not give the opponent the chance to continue attacking. Yaya skipped over, seeing the corpse of the star spirit snake on the floor. Its eyes lit up. It raised the little bow in its hand. Using the bowstring and the blade, it started to cut the star spirit snake. Tang Tian had a misconception. The snake tail's attack was like a sword expert, the tip of the sword flicking. Thinking about what Bing had said, these star spirit beasts merged with the ancient martial spirit fragments, and also inherited the martial techniques from the fragments. Rank 6 Star Soul Snake. Tang Tian did not waste any time and took out the parts of the star soul snake. "I wonder how much the rest of the things can be sold for?" Tang Tian rubbed his chin in anticipation. It was as fast as lightning, and in the blink of an eye, it was in front of Tang Tian. Sizzle. Tang Tian's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. Even with true power, Tang Tian's palms were numb. He hurriedly threw the ice ball in his hand far away. The ice ball drew a parabola and fell more than 100 feet away, shattering into pieces. Where he landed, a thick layer of ice immediately formed. Peacock. The star spirit beast carried the inertia, and crashed headfirst into Tang Tian, who was enveloped in blue light. "Huh. I knew you were going to use this move." His movements were swift and agile, causing Tang Tian to be dumbfounded. Tang Tian nodded. He sat down and started to summarize the battle. Tang Tian was embarrassed but said honestly, "I need to rest for a day." Tang Tian lowered his head. The snake's tail brushed past his scalp. "These spirit nuclei have merged with the ancient martial spirit fragments, and are not pure enough, so they can't be sold for a good price." Bing explained, "But to Yaya they are good stuff. I remember there was a guy in the army who specially collected these spirit nuclei and fed them to Bud spirit generals. In the end, his Bud spirit generals were very powerful. Nothing could make people more focused than the threat of death. There was no kind of improvement that was faster than in battle. This was the first star spirit beast that Tang Tian killed. So fast. A fist wrapped with countless ripples landed on the snake's body. The sound was not loud, but the snake's body trembled. Where Tang Tian's fist landed, countless cracks spread out like a spider web. Seems like it can be done later on, but it requires the Bud Spirit General's strength to reach a certain level. Bing recalled and was somewhat uncertain. Tang Tian's eyes blurred, and his vision was completely occupied by the huge snake's body. He was shocked and immediately protected his vitals. The snake's body coiled together and there was no flaw. Bang! The snake's body seemed to have been stuffed with a big firecracker and exploded. The extremely cold fog rapidly corroded the blue peacock's feathers, and in the blink of an eye, the blue peacock was covered with a layer of frost. 6th level spirit nuclei. Tang Tian's face was filled with pain. Battles were forever different from training. Even though the chamber of the 18 bronze figures was so intense, it was still incomparable to battles. In battles, a little carelessness could result in death. Tang Tian roared, both his arms bent in front of his body, and the armor on his body shone brightly, and a layer of faint blue light floated. He exhaled and his feet sank into the ground, and like an arrow leaving the bow, he rushed towards the star spirit snake. If not for the star spirit beast's last attack, facing the snake with layers upon layers of snake scales, it would not have been easy for him to break through its defense. The battle experience in the chamber of the 18 bronze figures taught Tang Tian, if you hit the opponent's first punch, don't miss the chance to give him a second punch. Tang Tian noticed that the star spirit snake's cold chi had decreased by a lot. It seemed like this cold fog the star spirit snake was not endless. Facing this slash, Tang Tian did not dodge. A wave of energy that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas came, and his entire body flew out horizontally. Ping! Tang Tian's heart trembled, and with a tap of his toes, his body flashed. This light brushed past his body, and the cold aura caused goosebumps to form on Tang Tian's skin. Shwa shwa shwa. Tang Tian, who was in mid-air, twisted his waist and stabilized his body. From the corner of his eyes, he saw the star spirit snake opening its bloody mouth, and like an angry arrow, it whizzed towards him. The fist contained a strong vibrating force, and the penetrating force was extremely strong. This vibration would seep into the opponent's body. Even those bronze people who did not have any senses would be frozen for a short period of time. Bing floated out, and with a glance he had an expression of being used to it. Although the Bud Spirit General's level is low, but they are smart and capable. In a while, give it the spirit nucleus and it will be able to swallow the spirit nucleus to become stronger. He was now able to cause the air within a radius of 3 feet to vibrate, and form a vibrating circle. As long as the opponent was within the vibrating circle, they would be affected, and to Tang Tian, who was an expert in close combat, this was an exceptional method. The bloody mouth opened wide, and the stench of blood rushed straight towards Tang Tian's face. A huge force came through, but Tang Tian's body did not move an inch. Although this slash was sharp, but to the number 11 bronze figure in the chamber of the 18 bronze figures, the force was still lacking. But looking at the motionless star spirit snake on the ground, he heaved a sigh of relief. All right. Tang Tian then shouted towards Yaya. The spirit nucleus is for you, the rest is for me. After flying through the air for more than 10 feet, Tang Tian fell heavily onto the ground. After a while, Tang Tian crawled up in a sorry state. Both of his arms were in so much pain that it felt like they were broken. Tang Tian's vision darkened, and with an even faster speed he flew backwards. The snake's tail was as straight as a sword and slashed diagonally. The star spirit snake was in so much pain that its snake body shrunk, and suddenly spat out a cold mist. This cold mist immediately enveloped the snake's body. Tang Tian felt the cold piercing to his bones. This cold mist was actually like needles, continuously drilling into his body. Tang Tian's vibrations had already integrated into his various martial techniques. The current moon hand blade was like a piece of violently vibrating sharp blade. Its power was a notch higher. The vacuum ball exploded in the soft stomach of the snake. Most probably the inside of this big fellow would be smashed into pieces. The snake's scales flew everywhere, and the snake's body had 3 extremely fine wounds. The shop assistant's expression became even more respectful and said respectfully, "Please wait for a moment, the shopkeeper will be here soon." Yaya squeaked happily and worked even harder. The battle was short and intense, and his entire body was sore. It was the snake's tail. The star spirit snake did not expect the surrounding air to suddenly vibrate chaotically, and these vibrations passed through the air and into its body. Although the vibrations were not enough to injure it, but it disrupted its rhythm. The star spirit beast was as though it was facing a great enemy. Its body coiled up, the snake head raised, its cold snake eyes, staring intently at Tang Tian. Dang! Vacuum ball. After recovering his strength, Tang Tian returned to 3 Spirit City, and casually walked into a material shop. In Tang Tian's left hand, a transparent light ball appeared. At this time Tang Tian had already rushed close to the star spirit snake. His fist clenched, his true power vibrated, buzz, the surrounding air immediately became chaotic. At this time the star spirit beast finally recovered from the shock. With a roar, its entire body bounced up, dragging the snake tail on the ground. It bounced up like a gigantic sword, it slashed vertically. 3 moon hand blades hit the snake's body. Bang! The vacuum ball broke, hiss, the surrounding mist rushed in crazily. He carefully walked to the front of the star spirit snake. The star spirit snake was not moving, it was already dead. Countless vibrations flew out of his fist and into the star spirit snake's bloody mouth. Although the vibrations had a strong penetrating power, but in this aspect, it was not as good as the crane body energy. But Tang Tian's crane body energy without a higher level crane style chi manual, against stronger and stronger enemies, the effect was getting weaker and weaker. Tang Tian bared his teeth and shook his arms. Only then did he feel better. The last pounce, the star spirit beast seemed to have used all its strength. The light aura on Tang Tian's body dimmed. After Tang Tian's understanding of vibrations deepened, the vacuum ball became easy to use. This vacuum ball was the size of a bamboo basket, much bigger than before. He was now poor mainly because he had distributed all the points. Now to buy things he could only use star rocks and spirit nuclei. Although Uncle Qian had given him many star rocks, but the Shangguan clan had just gotten out of trouble and their wealth was limited. The snake tail bounced up high and Tang Tian took the opportunity to get close. Tang Tian suddenly grinned in mid-air facing the snake's mouth. He forcefully twisted his waist and punched. Tang Tian did not say anything. The heavenly dragon energy flowed along his fist and punched the gap between the two parts of the snake's body. Can't we just feed it the ancient martial spirit fragments? Tang Tian asked curiously. Hey little snake. You were lucky the last time, but you won't be so lucky today. Tang Tian's left hand was like a big mouth, sucking in the cold air with all its might. The cold mist quickly shrunk, once again revealing Tang Tian and the star spirit snake, and in Tang Tian's left hand there was an ice ball. Tang Tian stared at the star spirit snake. His eyes did not blink and his mouth said, "Let's sell this thing first." Bing said, "Anyway, the base is here, you can rest well." He raised his fist to block. Bang. Tang Tian was extremely pleased since he had decided to open the tunnel. The first thing Tang Tian thought of was how to break the cold mist of the star spirit snake. Chapter 127. They are just a group of bronze men. Don't tell me, even if you face the bronze men, defeat would make you hate it so much? Bing's tone was obviously gloating. There was no need to be so desperate. He threw away all the complicated thoughts and started to study the circulation route of his true power. He had used the crane body the most and had the deepest understanding. There were some places where he could not explain clearly, but he could feel if it was right or wrong. Tang Tian suddenly thought of something. He remembered that the old man had once said that the crane body of the crane sect had been lost. Could it be? Why did you have to do this? Why did you have to do this? Let me see if there are any suitable cards. Tang Tian did not have any guilty thoughts. He just looked around curiously. It was his first time seeing such a high-class shop. He did not know that he had already exposed himself as a country bumpkin. He was extremely excited. The treasure card house was indeed powerful. They could even get the spirit cards of the crane sect. They were really powerful. Bing looked at the crazy Tang Tian and was dumbstruck. In his long career as an instructor, he had never seen such a stubborn and crazy person. He could not help but be lost in thought. Bing looked at Tang Tian's face and was in a daze. That ferocious, stubborn, battered and bruised face. These were the 3 gold grade cards that Jing Hao had taken out when they traded for the training spirit devices at the Crack of Energy. Rank 5 cards, Great Monument Palm, Tente, and Scattering Vortex. Tang Tian did not say a word. He crawled up and started meditating. The shop assistants did not look down on Tang Tian's country bumpkin expression. They were used to seeing the world. The smile on their faces did not change. "May I ask, what type do you need?" Suddenly, a pair of bright eyes lit up in the darkness. The true power in Tang Tian's body surged and rushed straight to his throat. Without thinking, he roared towards the sky. The roar was like the cry of a crane. If he could not even beat these assholes, how could he pass through the passage? That's right. One was gold and one was silver. Furthermore, the crane body energy was famous for being difficult to train. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. But to Tang Tian, the crane body energy was more practical than the heavenly dragon energy. After mastering the vibrations, the sharp crane body energy was obviously more suitable for him than the explosive heavenly dragon energy. As long as he persevered and slowly endured, he would eventually emerge victorious. Everyone who had walked this path had walked out the same way. Your starting point is originally lower than theirs, so the difficulty will be higher than theirs, and you will spend more time than them. This is very normal, very normal. The young man's flame-like eyes entered Bing's eyes. Welcome. As expected of a high-end card shop, Sai Lei's broken card shop simply could not be compared to it. The shop assistant was not too surprised. To be able to come here, he was definitely not someone who could be dismissed with a normal spirit card. She was very familiar with the cards in the shop, and very quickly found the relevant information. Yes. 5 heavenly dragons, a gold card, priced at 6 million star coins. It was guaranteed that he could comprehend the heavenly dragon energy. Rank 5 crane style chi manual. Our shop has one, but it's a silver grade card, and it costs 300,000 star coins. Are there any 5 heavenly dragons? Or rank 5 crane-style chi manual? Tang Tian asked. May I know how I can help you? A young lady dressed in a rose cheongsam walked over. Tang Tian's idea of buying spirit cards was not a spur-of-the-moment idea. Asshole. Tang Tian looked around, quickly calculating the price of the sofa, the cost of the refreshments, the salary of the beauties, and finally started to worry if he had enough star rocks in his pocket. Back at the base, Tang Tian did not immediately use the card, but meditated to recover his spirit. If he could not even beat these assholes, how could he save Chia? Without saying a word, meditate. How could he? Bang bang bang, Tang Tian fell out with a bloody nose and swollen face. With a howl, Tang Tian rushed into the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. Returning from a rewarding journey, Tang Tian went straight to Treasure Card House. Treasure Card House was very eye-catching and easy to find in Three Spirit City. Tang Tian did not spend much effort and entered the shop. Tang Tian came out of the chamber of the 18 bronze figures with a bloody nose and swollen face. His eyes were spitting fire. He excitedly challenged the chamber of the 18 bronze figures, thinking that with the crane body energy he would be successful. Never did he expect that number 9 would still sit on him. These 2 cards were what Tang Tian needed the most. Regardless if it was the heavenly dragon energy or the crane body energy, they were very practical. The shopkeeper was very familiar with Three Spirit City and said, Treasure Card House, although the price is expensive, there are many good things. The shopkeeper praised, this piece of snakeskin is the best rank 6 snakeskin I have ever seen. It should be a mutated star spirit snake that absorbed an ancient martial spirit fragment. Although the spirit nucleus is not worth much, the quality of the snakeskin is much better than the average star spirit snake. This snakeskin, I am willing to buy it for 300,000 star coins. A pair of snake teeth, 20,000 star coins, a piece of snake tendon, 50,000 star coins, a total of 370,000 star coins. What do you think? Yo yo yo, crane body energy, break break break. 40 times. Regardless of whether it was in the chamber of the 18 bronze figures or today's battle, he found his weakness, true power. He had broken through to the 5th level and his true power was more vigorous than before, but his other improvements were limited. Great. The shopkeeper was overjoyed and passed a star coin card to Tang Tian. Why don't you go around and find out the prices? My shop is always fair. I only hope that if you have any gains in the future, you will patronize my shop. The shopkeeper carefully looked at every material, but the star spirit snake skin was the longest. Yaya's cutting technique was perfect. The entire piece of snakeskin was picked up, and the fine bronze scales on it rattled. Tang Tian was surprised. The difference between the 2 prices was huge, but after thinking about it he understood. Comprehension would vary from person to person, but the route of true power circulation would not change. After trying to circulate it for a few days, Tang Tian realized, the comprehension contained in the spirit card was obviously wrong. It was an attack that would not rest until it was captured, filled with a bitter atmosphere. After the transaction, Tang Tian immediately returned to the base. A faint fragrance, quiet and pleasant. There was a velvet sofa, a small tea table with tea and desserts. The tea was still steaming. The smiling shop assistants, the wide-slit cheongsam, all of them were beautiful and moving. But Tang Tian was worried if they were not careful the clothes would be ruined. No problem. Tang Tian nodded straightforwardly, took the star coin card and suddenly asked, in Three Spirit City which card shop is more reliable? An hour later Tang Tian jumped up, raised his arms and roared, and rushed into the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. 2 hours later. A warm and sweet female voice, filled with familiarity, made people unconsciously let down their guard. For 3 whole days Tang Tian was in seclusion training the crane-style chi manual. This brat, does he not know what is discouraged? Does he not know what is depression? Does he not know what is pain? Does he not know what is fatigue? Does he not know what is long in the future? Go and die. You assholes. Asshole. But even if he knew, Tang Tian would not care. Asshole. You are too polite. The shopkeeper bowed slightly. An hour later the roar sounded again. Something is wrong. He kept trying, the true power in his body gathering and dispersing, continuously trying to outline the shape of a crane. Tang Tian nodded and cupped his fists towards the shopkeeper. Thank you very much. Tang Tian jumped up and laughed out loud. I can't even beat these assholes. He did not know why, but he always felt that these experiences had many parts that were very awkward. He had seen arrogant and untamed people, seen crazy and perverted people. All of them finally succeeded in passing the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. But not a single person would use such a desperate stance to attack the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. Sai Lei was shocked by Tang Tian's sudden howl, her hands trembled and a part was placed wrongly. She immediately flew into a rage and angrily smashed things. This idiot. Asshole. I said it's useless. You have to properly experience the staining fall. The vibration is indeed very useful, but borrowing strength to fight strength is also a very high-level technique. Of course, with your current foundation to understand borrowing strength to fight strength, it is still difficult. But at least there is some hope in this direction. Never. I want that rank 5 crane-style chi manual. Tang Tian straightforwardly took out half of his family's wealth. When he opened his eyes again, he had recovered to his most perfect state, took out the rank 5 crane-style chi manual spirit card, and poured his true power into it. Immediately, an indescribable feeling floated up from the bottom of his heart, and countless complicated routes appeared in his mind. 20 times. Rank 5 crane body energy. Too powerful. Wah, I am indeed a godlike young lad. This guy. Bing's face turned pale. Tang Tian was familiar with this state and carefully sorted out the understanding of the spirit card, but very quickly he frowned. Bang bang bang, Tang Tian was once again thrown out of the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. Thinking back to the time when he was torturing the bronze mechanical ostrich, Yu Bao also mentioned this shop. It seemed that this shop treasure card house was rather reputable. Tang Tian's eyes suddenly turned blood red, his face ferocious, and in his hands were 3 cards, 3 shining gold cards. Too awesome. Such a young lad's face should have a pair of eyes that burned like fire. Tang Tian's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He was originally not a broad-minded person. To fall into the same pit twice, he already felt that it was humiliating enough. To fall into the same pit so many times, this could no longer be described as humiliating. He had never experienced so many failures, and what made it hard for him to accept was that he still could not find a way. 370,000 star coins. This price far exceeded Tang Tian's expectations. He did not say anything and simply said, okay. If he could not even beat these assholes, how could he become the strongest martial artist? Under Bing's shocked gaze, Tang Tian did not say anything and used all 3 cards. How could he? Even these assholes could not beat. Tang Tian clenched his teeth. The humiliation that he had accumulated for a long time was ignited, and his remaining rationality was burnt cleanly. Chapter 128. Big Nine roared from time to time, waved his heavy fists, raised his legs to trample, but against the agile Tang Tian it was useless. Unfortunately, he was entangled by number 1 and all his efforts were in vain. He should have let Big Nine move, that way they would not be able to block his position. Number 9 bronze figure's body was like a large shield firmly protecting his back. He opened his bloodshot eyes wide, his body slightly bent, staring at the bronze figure opposite him without showing any weakness. Suddenly, the multi-handed monster triplets pulled apart, each standing on one side, forming a triangle locking Big Nine's surroundings. And number 1 bronze figure broke away from Tang Tian and jumped out of Big Nine's surroundings. Big Nine hugged his head and squatted. Anyway, his skin was thick, but he did not move at all. Tang Tian licked his lips. In the previous battle, he had already successfully pulled the multi-handed monster triplets into a straight line, and took advantage of the situation to get close to number 11, and with a great monument palm infused with the heavenly dragon energy, he directly sent him flying. That's right. Sai Lei did not refute this point, she continued, but look at the other sects when they reach the higher levels, the weapons they have. Star treasures, silver level star treasures. The martial spirit is already very strong, not to mention the gold level. More importantly, it is even smarter. Onyx Soul's blood meridians power are also abnormally strong. Those astonishing blood meridians are like a huge treasure trove. Their bodies can be trained to an astonishing level. Clan Union's spirit general style, although their spirit generals are very abnormal but equally strong. Look at the current few mainstream sects. You will realize at the higher levels, they all have a common characteristic: more reliance on the martial spirit. He had to think of a way. He had not given up and was trying hard to think of a way. Yes. Sai Lei was very familiar with it. Star Treasure Martial Spirit. The activation of blood meridians is also closely related to the martial spirit, and the spirit general style is even more so. Because no matter if it is the power of the body or the power of the mechanism, there will always be a limit. Only the power of the martial spirit has a wider space. Although sometimes she was arrogant to the point of being annoying, but she had to admit out of all the geniuses she had seen she was the most optimistic about Tang Tian. At least there was one thing, Tang Tian would never complain of being tired. How are these mechanical weapons? Bing's gaze landed on Sai Lei. Staining fall had improved a lot, but it was still not enough. Sai Lei jumped in fright. She turned around. Seeing Bing, she was startled. You don't need to accompany him to train? Tang Tian was stunned. Yes, but I now realize that this problem is not so simple. Sai Lei smiled bitterly. I need to completely digest these technologies before it is possible. This is a huge project. Mechanical weapons can amplify true power and strengthen martial techniques, which also means that it needs to be able to withstand true power. But high-level true power had a strong destructive power, and normal materials were unable to withstand it. I have analyzed these Southern Cross bronzes. The true power they can withstand can at most reach the 8th level. True power above the 9th level is unbearable. Sai Lei spoke frankly with assurance. What was this guy doing? Sai Lei muttered. It should be able to handle low-level and mid-level battles, but it won't be suitable for high-level battles. The scattering vortex was indeed very useful. If he could move a little faster and create more whirlpools, he could form a group of whirlpools and pull the opponent's body. As long as the opponent revealed an opening, he could use the Great Monument Palm to finish him off. Bing declined to comment. These mechanical weapons are just ordinary standard equipment and are given to ordinary soldiers. The mechanical weapons used by experts will not have a situation where they cannot withstand true power. Tang Tian's ears were filled with his own bellows panting, and the bronze man in front of him swayed in his vision. The continuous battles caused his spirit to be extremely fatigued, but he did not give up. Out of nowhere, a stab suddenly appeared from Big Nine's crotch, like a venomous snake in the shadows, giving a fatal blow. Most of his methods failed, but there were some methods that allowed him to see hope of success. The attacks whistled like raindrops and Tang Tian hurriedly dodged, battered and exhausted. Bronze Man No. 9's huge body was like a puppet being pulled by strings, swaying left and right. When he retreated out of the chamber of the 18 bronze figures, he gritted his teeth. Damn 11. Tang Tian summed up the gains and losses in his heart. He was suppressing a bellyful of anger, but he also knew that his strength was not enough, and just relying on courage would not be able to defeat these bastards. Tang Tian hid in the shadow of Bronze Man No. 9, his left hand holding onto countless fine vibrating patterns, and the 5 fingers of his right hand flicked at an astonishing speed. One after another small vortex flew out from his fingers, continuously flying into the corners of the Bronze Man No. 9's body. This was the experience and knowledge that Tang Tian had gained after a continuous 122 attacks. He was starting to get used to fighting in such an extreme environment, regardless of whether it was Tan Tue, Sanshou, Great Monument Palm, Tyrant's Angry Finger, etc. The martial techniques were as smooth as flowing water, so fast that he did not even need to think. Bronze Man No. 1 had great strength and was good at close combat, but with other bronze men around, it would be affected instead. Bing finally revealed an interested expression. What do you mean? What progress do you have? Suddenly, Bing's voice came from behind her. Very good. The Southern Cross Army is indeed the peak of the mechanical techniques era. These mechanical weapons have many mechanical techniques which have now been lost, are very exquisite. Sai Lei was beaming with joy. Look at these joints. The joints now are made even more exquisite, but in terms of performance they are far from being as practical as these joints. Kente was wide open. The leg was like an axe chopping, very domineering, mixing with the crane body energy. It should be able to become sharp. The freed hands could use the vibrating circles to disturb the opponent. It was very difficult to coordinate the two martial techniques, but if it could be done, it should be very powerful. Other than strength and weight, the Bronze Man No. 9 did not have any other strong points, and its reaction was very slow. But what a hot-blooded young man. Great Monument Palm. was very powerful, but its attack speed was slow, suitable for finishing, not suitable for a high-tempo chaotic battle. He could consider mixing with the heavenly dragon energy this way against a skinny bronze man like the bronze man number 11, it could have the effect of sending him flying. Suddenly his figure froze. Thinking about the martial spirit contract she had signed with Tang Tian, she felt that it would be best if her expectations could be realized. Her fate was tied together with this fellow. No need. Bing shook his head, thinking about Tang Tian's training these few days. He felt that there was indeed no need. At the start he still wanted to give pointers to Tang Tian as the chief instructor of the army. His analysis of battles had his own unique points. But very quickly he realized Tang Tian was continuously trying out new methods. The other bronze men no longer rushed forward, but stuck in their positions, ping ping pang pang, the weapons in their hands smashed towards Big Nine. Sai Lei muttered to himself and then directly ignored Bing, minding his own business and starting to attack. The rhythm of the vibrating, if it could be changed, then the effect of the interference should be even more outstanding. The bronze man number 11 was a big problem. His sword techniques were superb, his thrusts were especially accurate, always able to find a flaw in the chaotic battle and kill with one strike. Tang Tian had fallen under this fellow's sword a few times, but Tang Tian also realized as long as he could close the distance, close combat, the power of the bronze man number 11 would decrease sharply. Tang Tian's face changed, he immediately understood. Upon talking about the mechanical weapons, Sai Lei's spirit was immediately roused. In this dark place she had been addicted to these mechanical weapons for so long, finally being able to find a like-minded person to talk to, she immediately brought up the topic. Using the scattering vortex to stick to the opponent's body was the best shield. Sai Lei understood and immediately became excited. This is very simple. Let me think, what style should I change to? Must be flashy. I have an idea. Intuition, instinct. Although the majority of the methods, with one look he could see that they would definitely fail, but he did not say anything to interfere. Tang Tian's body froze, his sword was pierced. Tang Tian clenched his teeth, his legs fiercely stomped on the ground, his body was like an arrow, rushing straight towards the bronze men. Sai Lei's mouth could not help but reveal a knowing smile. Tang Tian was the most unique person she had met in so many years. He never concealed his ambition, he was always so confident. Oh, the bronze man number 9 is an exceptional big shield. What's the matter? Sai Lei asked. Relying more on the martial spirit? Bing revealed a pondering expression. Scattering vortex. In a small area it was very useful. Its power was not considered strong, but it was fast, one whirlpool after another. It was very useful in a chaotic battle. The weakness was that it could not kill in one hit, it could only be used for a stalemate. The last attack was to use the Great Monument Palm. This combination could be tried. Failure. 4, 5, 6, the multi-handed monster triplets. They definitely could not let the three of them occupy different positions. It was best to pull the three of them in a straight line. This had to be thought of. Don't rush, take it slow. Bing was rather patient. He thought of another matter. Oh right, I have something to ask of you. The 122nd time. Bing did not disturb. In his eyes the mechanical engineer's appearance was normal. Who? Bing's eyes flashed a look of shock. Schwa, his figure suddenly disappeared. Hearing these praises, Bing's face did not reveal the slightest bit of happiness but frowned. Then do you think these mechanical weapons, can they adapt to the current battle? There were many obedient warriors but very few who could think, and in his career as an instructor, those warriors who were good at thinking in the end, did not have low achievements. Number 11 was too sinister. I must first find a chance to get rid of him. I must try to reduce the number of enemies I have to face. The 193rd time. Please modify a bronze mechanical ostrich. Bing explained. The antiques of the Southern Cross Army are still too eye-catching. I hope you can modify it to suit the current style and not remind people of the Southern Cross Army. On the contrary, Tang Tian always borrowed the strength of Big Nine, using the scattering vortex to lead, trying to make Big Nine lose its balance. Sai Lei was a little surprised. Tang Tian had not come out for a few days. Just that every once in a while, there would be a roar and roar coming from where Tang Tian was training. In this kind of chaotic battle, even the most exquisite footwork was useless. To make use of the opponent's body was the most crucial point. Tang Tian's expression was extremely focused. His valiant intuition was displayed to the extreme. Tang Tian's own ideas and him pointing out the problem, both were completely different for growth. Bing knew this quality of continuous thinking was very valuable. The 156th time. This group of assholes. I understand. Bing was enlightened, fused the mechanical technique with the martial spirit. Chapter 129. Tang Tian's move just now was purposely baiting number 11 to make a mistake. Number 11 was the most sinister and dangerous, and was the first one that Tang Tian needed to eliminate. Sai Lei snorted and turned to do her own thing. Compared to the previous few times, Tang Tian's speed was much slower. But if one looked closely, one would realize that his rhythm had changed and became even harder to grasp. Looking at the bronze men lying all over the floor, Tang Tian was dumbstruck as though he could not believe his own eyes. Are you sure you did not go the wrong way? Tang Tian asked Bing. Such an important battle and he actually did not see it. Who? After being taught for a total of 293 battles, he finally relaxed. Fatigue and exhaustion were like a tide, quietly creeping in. He forced his eyelids open, but for some reason his eyelids became heavier and the world in front of him was shrouded in darkness. Tang Tian's mind trembled and all his complacency disappeared. He laughed. Aha, no rush, no rush. Let's first find Xia, then we can start. There will be plenty of time. He was beside Big Nine like a butterfly flying through flowers. He did not look fast, but those weapons were always a few millimeters away, brushing past his body and landing on empty air. Suddenly, his waist was like a soft straw lightly swinging to the left, and then with an even faster speed he dodged to the right. But the surrounding air suddenly trembled. Number one's fist power immediately stagnated, and Tang Tian's great monument palm was like a huge monument, crashing into number one's fist. Don't forget about the matter of you killing Kong Yulin. The Southern Cross Army's things are too eye-catching. Bing reminded. I got Sai Lei to modify one for you. Uncle, let's go. Tang Tian shouted and urged Flamingo to rush out. Breakthrough of the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. Bing quietly looked at Tang Tian. His heart could not calm down for a long time. Wa good. Dong. Bing floated in like a ghost. That painted poker face said, Yo, the young man is awake. To be able to break through the chamber of the 18 bronze figures, I'm very surprised. When Bing opened the chamber of the 18 bronze figures, he never thought that Tang Tian would pass. He just wanted to give Tang Tian more pressure so that Tang Tian could grow faster. His sleeping face was covered in bruises and his face was beyond recognition. His clothes were torn and tattered and his exposed skin was covered in wounds. As Big Jio's body crashed to the ground, only Tang Tian was left standing. Without another word, Tang Tian jumped onto Flamingo's back. Flamingo was like a gust of wind as it began to run around the training grounds. Ah! Bastard! I did it! Tang Tian didn't pay attention to number one who was pouncing towards him. Scattering vortex caused Big Nine to stagger. Boom! Big Nine stepped on a bronze man. Number one wasn't prepared for Big Nine's movements and hurriedly stopped his body. I did it. If anyone wanted to talk about training with him now, he would puke. Sai Lei's eyes flickered with electricity. His killing intent was overflowing. Are you insulting my work? A young man? If you don't know what's good, then shut up. Compared to the bronze mechanical ostrich, it is even more outstanding. Its weight is only a third of the bronze mechanical ostrich, which means that its energy consumption is only a third of the bronze mechanical ostrich. Its speed compared to the bronze mechanical ostrich is not any slower, and the key is that its short-distance sprinting speed is comparable to a rank 6 light body technique. Taking advantage of the gap when Big Jio stabilized his body, he suddenly appeared in front of number one, and used a great monument palm. Tang Tian was like a ghost appearing beside number 4 out of thin air. Taking a deep breath, his true power surged and his palm shook, causing number 4 to subconsciously block. His 2 legs were like 2 shiny heavy axes, alternating and swinging. So powerful. Tang Tian was intimidated, but he didn't believe it. The mount in front of him suddenly shrunk. The bronze mechanical ostrich's body was taller than Tang Tian, and its 2 bird legs were extremely thick. But in front of him was an ostrich that was about to starve to death, as thin as a match, and only half the height of the bronze mechanical ostrich. Its 2 bird legs were as thin as a reed stick. Number 293. Number 4 seemed to be hit by 2 heavy cannons and flew out in a straight line. Coincidentally, number 5 and number 6 were in the same line, and immediately rolled into a ball like a gourd on the ground. Won't you know once you try? Young man. Sai Lei said proudly. Bing smiled and nodded. That's right. The food that Tang Tian brought with him were all non-perishable dry rations. At this moment he didn't care about the taste and ate and drank like crazy. The sharp Tan Tue did not use the crane body energy, but the heavenly dragon energy this time. Eat eat eat, there's actually nothing left. Tang Tian touched his belly as if he hadn't had enough. His belly was obviously round. Number 9's position was constantly changing, and the other bronze men could only follow suit. Tang Tian suddenly shot up from number 9's feet like a ghost, and coincidentally the triplets were in a straight line. Bing, we've already wasted a lot of time, we need to hurry. Tang Tian quickly changed the topic. Let's start opening the passageway now. Then let's do it. Surprisingly, Bing didn't mock Tang Tian but turned and walked out. Oh right, I've prepared a new mount for you. 293 rounds, almost 300 rounds, even if he ate 300 buns consecutively he would still vomit. Wah! That's right, uncle, you're such a short-sighted fellow. How can you understand the limitless potential of this godlike young man? Tang Tian wasn't the least bit modest, and with a face full of pride he laughed with his hands on his hips. Number 1's body trembled. Following that his tone changed, he squinted his eyes, imitating the demeanor of an expert, lowered his voice and said in a low muffled voice, "My big axe is hungry and thirsty. Are you sure this thing won't collapse when I sit on it? Oh my god, which ostrich is so skinny?" Tang Tian's face darkened. That crazy woman must be bearing a grudge for what happened in the past, and is purposely tormenting me. Bing's mouth curled into an arc. Are you sure you've rested well? Tang Tian actually finished all the rations in the Aquarius Marshall cabinet in one breath. How did this fellow win? Tang Tian, who was following behind Bing, stopped, and with a stupefied face he pointed to a place not far away. Is that the thing over there? Number 1 did not back down and brazenly exchanged blows with him. But this fellow actually passed the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. Tan Tue that was infused with the crane body energy was like 2 extremely sharp heavy axes, and Tan Tue that was infused with the heavenly dragon energy was like 2 heavy cannon hammers. Tang Tian's 2 legs did not hold back and gave it his all. Seems a little tired. The tip of a sword suddenly brushed past Tang Tian's waist. Tang Tian fell to the ground facing the sky, and after a few seconds his snores shook the sky and his stomach rose and fell rhythmically. Tang Tian once again shrunk back into Big Nine's shadow. Very quickly, Tang Tian rushed to the place where he met the star spirit snake, but there was nothing there. Of course. Tang Tian patted his own chest. I'll definitely recover completely. Godlike young lad full of energy. Come, let us open the Southern Cross constellation passage. 293 rounds. The tip of his leg hit the sword body, and the crane body energy that had been waiting for a long time gushed out as sharp as a bird's beak. Just a little sleepy, Tang Tian's figure shrunk, and returned to number 9's side, and used the scattering vortex, causing Big Nine's body to lean backwards. In Tang Tian's ears, there was only his own heavy breathing, and the spacious chamber of the 18 bronze figures was extremely quiet. When Bing rushed over, he saw Tang Tian sleeping soundly, saliva flowing out from the corner of his mouth, forming a crystal-clear line. He did not care about his image and was like a tired child, sleeping soundly. Beneath his feet, the bronze figures were scattered everywhere. Some of the bronze figures had their joints bent, and some of the bronze figures had their parts scattered everywhere. In the spacious chamber of the 18 bronze figures, Tang Tian's triumphant declaration resounded. Tang Tian seemed to have predicted it, and his right leg shot out like a poisonous snake hiss, bringing along a dazzling light blade. Tan Tue. Tang Tian remembered when Bing mentioned the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. It was the most painful training in the recruit training camp, and the chamber of the 18 bronze figures could only enter the top 3. This meant there were at least 2 other training methods and were definitely not inferior to the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. Number 11's frail body trembled as if he was struck by lightning and flew out. Surrounding number 9's huge body, he perfectly controlled number 9's body, and from time to time, a bronze figure would be hit by the great monument palm and fly out. Bang bang. His eyes suddenly lit up. Yes, it's here, look there. This rock pass go through. Tang Tian groaned. This palm he used all his strength. But he did not retreat and instead advanced. His two legs drew out two sharp light blades. Ping ping piu, it entered number one's joints and number one's two elbows flew out. An unfriendly voice sounded from behind Tang Tian. This is Flamingo. Tang Tian's spirit was lifted and he hurriedly went through the rock pass. After a few turns and walking for about an hour, a starry door appeared in front of the two of them. Tang Tian urged Flamingo to run and shouted. He quickly fell in love with Flamingo. Flamingo was indeed outstanding. Its steps were much lighter than the bronze mechanical ostrich, almost silent, without the slightest rumbling sound of the bronze mechanical ostrich. What made Tang Tian even crazier was that it was actually red. But, so tired. No, it was to occupy the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. A new mount. Tang Tian was stunned. Little ostrich is pretty good. How could a godlike young man be tired? The figures around him became lesser and lesser. Tang Tian jumped to the side of the bronze figures and said proudly, "Huh. I've said it before, I will definitely defeat you bunch of bastards. Ah. I am indeed a godlike young man. I actually did it." When Tang Tian woke up he immediately felt hungry and thirsty, his limbs were weak and his eyes glowed green. He hurriedly found food from the Aquarius Marshal cabinet, and rushed to the side of the pond like a gust of wind, and squatted beside the bronze waterway and gulped it down. Bing pointed the way and the two of them advanced carefully. But what the two of them did not expect was, along the way they actually did not meet a single star spirit beast. Thinking about this, Tang Tian's scalp went numb. Although the injuries received in the chamber of the 18 bronze figures were not fatal, but the pain would not lessen. But on Tang Tian's face there was not a hint of pain. His face was brimming with a baby's satisfied smile, and his wide-open mouth followed the rhythm of his snoring. Bing smiled. That's right, then let us start a new challenge. A young man should continuously challenge. Only then can his unlimited potential be stimulated. Bing was slightly uncertain. It must be this way, that path is very hidden. The chamber of the 18 bronze figures was already so terrifying. Other challenges, an unprecedented sense of accomplishment filled every cell in his body, and his bloodshot eyes looked at his own palms in shock, but very quickly the shock turned into uncontrollable ecstasy. Chapter 130. He looked as though he was asleep, floating on the water, following the flow of the current. Tang Tian's heart moved. He heard these people talking about blood meridians. In his memory the only thing that could be related to blood meridians was onyx soul. Asshole. I want you to understand how horrible it is to anger this godlike young man. This was just the beginning. Tang Tian completely did not expect, just after passing through the starry door, what awaited him was actually an extremely fast-flowing river. He did not even have time to react and was washed far away by the river. In a daze his entire body actually fell into the air. Bing asked back, "Do you think I would know?" The most conspicuous was a middle-aged man with a knife scar on his face. His entire body was surrounded by killing intent. A few drops of blood flowed along his palm, dripping into the mud. "We can't enter the martial spirit chamber." Bing spread his hands with a face of innocence. "It is very possible that when we passed through the starry door yesterday, it affected the martial spirit chamber. The entrance of the martial spirit chamber is now in complete chaos. As for the reason, I have not figured it out yet. Seems like the connection between the starry door and the army is deeper than what I thought." Gulu sat up straight, stepped on the water surface and looked around. Stepping on water without sinking to him now was extremely simple. "Does anyone have a star map? Can you sell me one?" Tang Tian looked at everyone anxiously. Phylan's star. Tang Tian was very sure he had never heard of this star's name, and could only bite the bullet and ask, "Which constellation does it belong to? Who could it be?" Tang Tian asked as he flew. Tang Tian's heart was secretly in awe. He tried his best to walk lightly and held his breath, but did not expect to be detected. Bing suddenly drilled into Tang Tian's body and said softly, "Be careful." This meant they were trapped on this planet. Only he was left. "It doesn't belong to any constellation." The middle-aged man casually said, "It belongs to Onyx Soul." Not being able to enter the martial spirit chamber meant the passage to Three Spirits City was closed. Night Forest. A guard casually said. The two of them exclaimed at the same time and looked at each other, seeing the joy in each other's eyes. If there were people around, it meant that they would know where they were. Suddenly, the middle-aged man seemed to have sensed something. He turned his head and shouted, "Who is it? Come out." A strong sense of loneliness welled up in his heart. Everything related to him had already been annihilated and scattered in the wind. Even those memories would gradually fade in color, turning into black and white, gradually settling in his heart. If looks could kill, Bing's body would have been riddled with holes and he would have died 100 times. Bing's gaze landed on Tang Tian, who had his eyes closed, and suddenly thought, if this fellow was not meditating, he would definitely be making a ruckus now. The corner of his mouth involuntarily curled into an arc. Fortunately, this fellow was quite a bastard, so he wouldn't be too cold. The two of them stood on the surface of the river ready to fight. Waterfall. Tang Tian and Bing rushed towards the source of the sound at the same time. Tang Tian's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. He gritted his teeth and said, "A certain elder of the army, a responsible young man, should not have such an attitude." Women. Bing's hearing was even sharper. There are sounds of fighting. "Young lad, be careful not to get beaten up." "Uncle, you better take care of yourself. You're so old that your teeth are about to fall off. Don't be jealous of this godlike young lad." Tang Tian, who was sprinting, heard this and glared angrily. The majestic waterfall rumbled loudly. Even though they were far away, they could still feel its astonishing power. Bing turned his head and looked behind him. Everything happened too fast, so fast that he could not react in time. Did not activate his blood meridians? The nightmare did not seem to be ending. Everyone's face was filled with surprise. The guards all started to laugh softly, even the middle-aged man was surprised. "I never thought that I would actually meet someone who has not activated his blood meridians here." Bing's expression revealed a rarely seen awkwardness. Even he himself was slightly embarrassed by this blunder. But he quickly found an excuse for himself. "You know, the starry door can change. But this kind of starry door that only changes half, it is also my first time seeing it." Falling from the top of the 300 m tall waterfall into the river below, even with Tang Tian's strong body, he was still on the verge of vomiting blood. All the bones in his body were about to fall apart and his mind was blank. No one bothered about Tang Tian, but the young lady in the middle of the guards looked at Tang Tian curiously. "You think I will feel guilty?" Bing replied with a face of mockery. The haze in his heart dissipated by a lot. He raised his eyebrows. "You should be glad that it is not a waste planet. If not, you can just wait to eat the dust. And let me tell you a piece of bad news. This is the familiarity of the army's elder-level members with the army's encampment." Tang Tian's face was gloomy. He stared at Bing with an unkind expression. The starry door outside of Three Spirit City was exactly the same as before. Its position and size did not change at all. This made him ecstatic. He thought that he could return to his old place. Who knew that the other side of the starry door had changed beyond recognition? His entire body was drenched. He was in a sorry state. He laid on the surface of the water like a wooden plank. One of the skinny and weak-looking guards had a flash of red light in his eyes. 5th level. He did not activate his blood meridians. In a clearing in the dense forest, there was an intense battle. The ground was littered with corpses. It was a complete mess. Everyone stopped what they were doing. Their gazes all gathered on Tang Tian. The guards beside the young lady immediately acted as though they were facing a great enemy. They protected the young lady in the middle. "There's someone here. All right. Seems like relying on myself is more reliable." Tang Tian closed his eyes. He revolved his true power. Unknowingly, he entered a meditative state. In front of him was a dense forest. The dense treetops formed a green sea of trees. Tang Tian spread his arms. Like a big bird, he stepped on the sea of trees and flew. "Unless, there's someone here." Tang Tian waved his hand. "I don't know either. When I stepped through the starry door, I was rushed into the river. Suddenly I fell down the waterfall. I have no idea where I am." But in his heart he had mixed feelings. His companions had withered. The Overlord had been annihilated. The world had changed. Even the starry door had been turned upside down. Abaili nodded in response. He began to clean up the battlefield. "Abaili, clean up." He ordered one of the guards. Which planet is that?" Tang Tian could only ask more directly. although it was not Bing's fault but his attitude. All of a sudden, everyone burst into laughter. Bailey sneered, "Brat, don't tell me you still want to leave Phylan's star? Stop dreaming. Since when can an idiot who has not activated his blood meridians leave Phylan's star?" Suddenly, a faint cry of surprise entered their ears from afar. Tang Tian opened his eyes, his black pupils flashed with a light aura that could captivate people's souls. His body had completely recovered. This time the time spent in meditation was much longer than usual. As he had guessed, it was related to Onyx Soul. But Tang Tian was not the least bit pleased. He did not know what constellation Phylan belonged to, so he could not confirm his position. Seeing that it was a young man, the guards relaxed. Only the middle-aged man did not relax. Without turning his head, he shouted, "Xianxia." 5 to 6 people were protecting a young lady. She was dressed luxuriously. She had a noble temperament. One look and you could tell that she was not an ordinary person. The guards beside her were all experienced, and their expressions were calm and fierce. It was as though he was sitting on a roller coaster. Before he could even regain his senses, he was once again swept out by the river. It was another waterfall, another 30 free fall. The pitiful Tang Tian almost fainted the moment he touched the water surface. After flying for about 10 minutes, Tang Tian found his target. Bing snorted. He did not look remorseful. "You also know about the elders. This is the attitude of the elders. Young man, you are the young man. Be humble and patient. Respect the old and love the young. Young man, you still have a long way to go." Tang Tian fell for a total of 6 times. Not only that, he was hit by the rocks along the way. His whole body was injured. Even his internal organs were injured because of the strong vibrations. Tang Tian was speechless. He looked at the sky. What planet is this? The two of them scolded each other with all their might. Their speed was not affected at all. Tang Tian was like a runaway wild horse. Bing calmly followed behind Tang Tian. Seeing that everyone had let down their guard, Tang Tian put on a harmless expression. "I'm sorry to disturb you. I'm lost here. I want to ask, what is this place? Don't tell me there's a star door in dark forest?" The middle-aged man muttered to himself. There were no flaws in Tang Tian's words. He raised his head and glanced at Tang Tian. "This is Phylan's star." He did not even have the strength to stand up. He flew across the surface of the water. After reaching the shore, he flew up to the treetops. Tang Tian raised both of his arms. He walked out of the forest and shouted, "Don't fight. I have no ill intentions. You are an idiot who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. You can't even pass the recruit training camp. I've seen many of you. I'll let you find your teeth on the floor with just one hand." Bing was a little surprised. To be able to enter meditation so quickly under such circumstances, Tang Tian's improvement surprised him. He observed the surroundings and the bottom of the water. He did not discover any threats. Bing felt innocent. Bing sneered. He did not show any weakness. He retorted, "Young man, don't think that you are so great just because you passed the chamber of the 18 bronze figures. In front of the chief military officer there is no fun in that place." Jealous? Hehe, I can't help it. A newbie who didn't even pass the recruit training camp. I can't be at ease. Bing spoke quickly. Tang Tian was confused. What did leaving a planet have to do with blood meridians? The next day, Tang Tian flew into a rage. He squatted down and was about to pounce on Bing. "You old bastard." This feeling was terrible. The middle-aged man said, "Which starry door did you come from? What the hell is this place?" As Bing expected, Tang Tian recovered. He immediately shouted, "Wow, this waterfall is so big. How can we rush up? Hey, uncle, say something. This was caused by you. Don't you have any guilt?" Chapter 131. Tang Tian grinned and tried to make his smile look friendly. "Hello, I'm Tang Tian." Mu Lei had been secretly observing Tang Tian. Mu Lei noticed the miss's emotions and said, "It's dangerous to venture out. You can lose your life at any time." "Maybe you're right." Tang Tian suddenly kept his smile and said seriously, "But there are some sceneries, some things that you will think of ways to see and do. If you don't, you will regret it for the rest of your life." The pale masked man turned his face, looked at Tang Tian's direction, shook his arms and disappeared into the forest like an owl. Tang Tian swallowed his saliva with difficulty and looked at the field. It was Tang Tian's first time watching someone else's battle, and he felt a chill in his heart. Finally, before the night fell, a white ravine appeared in front of everyone. He was like an agile cheetah, suddenly leaping towards Gu Shui. Uncle Mulei, you don't have to worry about me. The young lady was obedient and said, I'm in the top 3 in school. The swordsman in front of him had unleashed the power of his stab to the fullest. Even Mu Lei revealed a smile. The White Ravine was very close to Black Mountain City, and there were many martial artists around. The opponent would definitely not dare to set up an ambush here. All the hairs on Tang Tian's body stood up. Scope. Mu Lei displayed his swift and decisive style. A jet-black aura pierced through the snow. Such a terrifying swordsman. The black-robed swordsman's figure flashed, and easily retreated from the battlefield. Lad, we're going to Black Mountain City. If you're willing to follow us, then follow us. The middle-aged man looked at Tang Tian and said solemnly, but I have to remind you, our journey is not very safe. You have to take care of yourself. If you're in danger, no one will save you. The middle-aged man turned his face and said to the young lady apologetically, Miss, you'll have to work hard. A soft gasp of surprise floated in the air like a wisp of smoke. Bai Ding was looked down upon everywhere. Tang Tian was stunned and shook his head. I don't regret it. Although it was hard, I learned a lot and did what I wanted to do. I was very happy. Suddenly, Tang Tian felt a sense of danger. Mu Lei was displeased. He glanced at Tang Tian and said, Boy, how many places have you been to? How many things had he experienced? The outside world is more complicated than you can imagine. For example, just now, if it were another group of people, you would already be dead. So strong, a black-clothed swordsman wearing a deathly white mask, his entire body wrapped in black clothes, held an incomparably slender rapier in his hand. Every time he stabbed out, Mu Lei would be flustered. Yeah, there's still 1 more year before you graduate. I really envy you. You're so young, but you can already go out and explore the world. Gu Shui's eyes lit up. Tang Tian was dumbstruck as he listened. So powerful. The group shuttled through the dense forest. Playing. Very good. The middle-aged man didn't talk nonsense and said loudly, Pack up and get ready to move. We have to get to the white water ditch before it gets dark. Hurry up. Mu Lei's roar and the guard's roar didn't make Tang Tian feel safe at all. That misty whisper seemed to explode in Tang Tian's ears. The tip of the rapier was cold like a snake's tongue. It smashed her head ornament and flew dangerously past her scalp. She didn't have time to react. She felt dizzy and rolled on the ground. Tang Tian and Gu Shui chatted the most. It could be seen that Gu Shui was very interested in his adventures. But Mu Lei's warning just now made Tang Tian tactfully try not to talk about such matters. Tang Tian didn't refute. He just made a face at Gu Shui. Almost at the same time, Tang Tian sensed danger. He slammed his right palm on the ground and used this force to dodge to the side. He was quite satisfied with Mrs. Performance. They were already used to the tiredness of the journey. However, he didn't expect that the delicate Miss didn't complain at all and didn't cause them any trouble. Everyone saw it in their eyes and in their hearts. They were all very respectful to the young Miss. The black-clothed swordsman's figure was erratic and unpredictable. Every movement looked soft and powerless. Even when he brandished his sword and stabbed, there was no sound at all. It was as light as a feather, but it was these feathery thrusts that made Mu Lei and the others flustered. Tang Tian also asked a lot about Phylan's star. Then Tang Tian finally understood why others laughed when he said he wanted to leave Phylan's star. However, the one who had the upper hand was the black-clothed swordsman. Tang Tian took the opportunity to run forward with Gu Shui in his arms. He only stopped after running for a few feet. His intuition was extremely sharp. The black-clothed swordsman's glance before he left was directed at him. Tang Tian felt a chill in his heart. Hearing this, the others were suddenly embarrassed. He couldn't figure out Tang Tian's background, but someone who could enter Phylan's star without knowing about the Stargate couldn't be that simple. For the current Gu family, an unexpected variable was a good thing. Gu Shui was startled when she heard this. Her thoughts drifted away uncontrollably. She murmured, That's great. The black-clothed swordsman was like a black fog in the night, impossible to guard against and unpredictable. Without thinking, Tang Tian kicked the ground with his right leg and leaped forward with Gu Shui in his arms. His left leg that was infused with the heavenly dragon energy struck the snow sand. Bang, countless snow sand exploded behind him like a snow screen. It was only then that Tang Tian regained his senses. Fear welled up in his heart. His limbs were weak, his heart was thumping hard, and his face was pale. He had just brushed shoulders with the god of death and he almost lost his life. Although Mu Lei had reminded them before, the others were still disdainful of Tang Tian. Being at the 5th level at such a young age sounded good, but in Black Mountain City, any youngster with a bit of fame could do it. And these youngsters usually had 2 or 3 blood meridians activated. The group of people were extremely fast as they shuttled through the forest. These guards were experienced. They knew where to camp and how to avoid the star spirit beasts. This was an eye-opener for Tang Tian. On the contrary, the young miss was curious about Tang Tian. She had never seen an outsider before. "Hello, I'm Gu Shui." Tang Tian and Gu Shui could feel the change in the atmosphere. The two of them stopped talking and focused. Tang Tian was even more vigilant. He could feel the danger. Mu Lei, who had been observing Tang Tian in the dark, was surprised. Tang Tian's sharpness was something he could see. He screamed in fright. "I can take care of myself." Tang Tian raised his hand. Tang Tian shook his head. "Roaming the world is tough." Tang Tian laughed. "Do you regret it?" Gu Shui asked. Tang Tian was speechless. It was his first time seeing such a style of swordsman. It was also his first time seeing such a rapier. This type of rapier did not have a sharpened edge. It only had one function, and that was to stab. What made Tang Tian even more surprised was that Gu Shui and Mu Lei's attitude towards the honorable martial alliance was extremely indifferent. Of course, this was just Tang Tian's feeling. After all, he did not dare to flaunt his identity as an honorable martial alliance member. Tang Tian muttered to himself. Having just experienced 293 battles, Tang Tian's reaction was almost instinctive. He hoped that this would disrupt the opponent's vision. Suddenly, the black-robed swordsman swung his sword a few times. The rapier drew a few black lines in the air. Dang dang dang. Mu Lei and the rest felt their hands heating up. An astonishing power was transmitted through, and they could not help but retreat a few steps. Tang Tian's pounce was extremely fast. He carried Gu Shui, and like a rolling gourd he rushed into the snow-white sand of the white gutter. Mu Lei roared again and again. His palms were glowing with silver light. His whole body was surrounded by light, and he looked like a god of war who had descended to the world. His moves were bold and powerful and extraordinary. The strength of the other guards was also quite extraordinary. They were close to the strength of Liang Qiu and the rest. Gu Shui pursed her lips. "It's safest to lie at home and sleep every day. Don't chase." Mu Lei suddenly shouted. There was a trace of horror on his face. The other guards at this time plopped down on the ground. Everyone's face was filled with the expression of having survived a disaster. Mu Lei's eyes showed a gratified expression. He just nodded and did not say anything. Gu Shui covered her mouth and chuckled. These quotas had become the most intense competition in the entire Phylan's star. Gu Shui could see that Tang Tian was interested in the white gutter. She explained. "The snow-white stuff in the white gutter is a type of snow sand. It's useless. But wild beasts and star spirit beasts do not like it. So there are people who sell it here to the city. Everyone scatters it around the perimeter of the walls to prevent mosquitoes and ants." Tang Tian curiously went to the front of the gutter. It was his first time seeing such a peculiar gutter. The soil inside the gutter was actually as white as snow. Casually touching it, it felt like snow salt. "We're finally at the white gutter." Gu Shui heaved a sigh of relief. "We're at the white gutter. It's not far from the Black Mountain City. Star spirit beasts will not go near the white gutter." He had always thought that to enter and exit the star, as long as you had enough money, you could go and leave whenever you wanted. To Tang Tian this was not good news. The sky gradually darkened. Everyone's face became serious. They increased their speed. "Enough, Bai Li. Are you done with your work?" The middle-aged man turned his head and scolded. "He's not from Onyx Soul. It's normal that he has not activated his blood meridians. 5th level of power. At his age it's already not bad. Out of all of you, which one of you can be as old as him and have 5th level of power?" Mu Lei's heart moved. He snorted. "Naive. A deafening collision sound came from behind Tang Tian. At the same time Mu Lei roared. No. Tang Tian shook his head. You've left school for more than half a year. Are you still in school? This small gutter was very special. It was about 3 m wide. The soil outside the gutter was black. But the soil inside the gutter was snow white. It was extremely eye-catching. Gu Shui felt her vision darken. A figure covered her vision. Before she could react, she was pushed down by Tang Tian. Tang Tian, are you still in school? Gu Shui had a pair of beautiful brown eyes and snow-white skin. Her nose bridge was high. Her facial features were deep and her figure was tall. Phylan's star was not considered strong among the many planets under the jurisdiction of Onyx Sol. There were strict rules. Leaving Phylan's star had many strict restrictions. But the biggest restriction was the number of people who could leave. Although the guards maintained their vigilance, they could not help but relax. After the battle and the long journey they were extremely tired. An extremely fine sound pierced through the air. An almost undetectable force swept past Tang Tian's face. It quietly left a finger-sized hole on the ground. Chapter 132. Gu Shui was overjoyed. She carefully picked up Yaya and couldn't bear to let it go. Its little face was still a little sleepy, and it rubbed its eyes with its chubby little hands. Its chubby little face was constantly being rubbed by its little hands. Its eyes couldn't be seen anymore. Although Ah Bai Li's mouth was a bit cheap sometimes, it wasn't a bad person. Gu Shui was also amused by Ah Bai Li's funny face. Tang Tian looked at the direction where Xia disappeared. The fear in his heart disappeared and was replaced by a strong fighting spirit. The feeling of fighting with such an expert was really different. As if seeing through Tang Tian's thoughts, Mu Lei said in a deep voice. Until now he has no record of completing a mission. He only did it twice. This is the third time. Don't worry, he won't come again. If he fails a mission he will never come again. 5 million star coins. Tang Tian was shocked by this astronomical number. Even when he was at his richest he never had so much money. It was not enough to accomplish anything. You must be scared. Ah Bai Li saw that Tang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. He thought that Tang Tian had just regained his senses and comforted him. You are already very good to be able to escape from Xia. He is Xia, the most outstanding dark assassin on Phylan's star. You don't know, when I saw him my mind went blank. Do you know what my first reaction was when I regained my senses? Oh my God, we are actually still alive. God bless us, I hope we don't meet him again. Suddenly, Ah Bai Li's cheers interrupted Tang Tian. Tang Tian unwillingly stuffed Yaya into Gu Shui's hands. Be careful, it's a bit fierce. Gu Shui's eyes were shining. Yaya's expression made people laugh. Especially when it was half crouching, the little flag on its butt was exposed and waving. No matter who it was, the way they looked at Tang Tian quietly changed. If it wasn't for Tang Tian's help, the young miss wouldn't have been able to escape. This action also proved that Tang Tian was a friend and not an enemy. However, he couldn't tell if Tang Tian was lucky or had fast reflexes. From the beginning to the end, Tang Tian's performance in other aspects, such as martial arts, was not too outstanding. The warriors of the Honorable Martial Alliance were too weak. In Mu Lei's eyes they were simply half-disabled, although they were very good at using secret treasures. As long as they were hit once, the bodies of the Honorable Martial Alliance martial artists, which were as weak as dolls, would be torn apart. Tang Tian gasped in pain. A few strands of his hair were grabbed by Yaya. It hurts. This bastard. Furthermore, he was carrying the young miss, the lowest level of spirit general. Mu Lei glanced at Tang Tian and said indifferently, in essence it's an unformed spirit general. It's very agile. With one hand grabbing Tang Tian's hair and the other hand holding onto the small bough, it was half-crouching ready to fight and stared at Gu Shui. Miss, please work harder. Mu Lei warmly encouraged Gu Shui. Wow, so cute. Gu Shui was instantly attracted by Yaya's cuteness. Mu Lei suddenly smiled bitterly. Was it really the end of the road? Why did he put his hope on an unrelated outsider? Furthermore, he was just a nobody. Those who didn't activate their blood meridians would have a hard time surviving on Phylan's star. Even those who were from the Honorable Martial Alliance would have a hard time surviving on Phylan's star. This was the world of blood meridians. Regardless of winning or losing, In fact, Tang Tian wanted to say that it was too shameless, but after thinking about Zia's elusive swordsmanship, he swallowed his words. Yaya shivered and hugged Gu Shue's fingers even tighter. The theory of the supremacy of blood meridians was quite popular in Phylon. Mu Lei didn't really agree with it, but he also didn't think that a guy who didn't activate his blood meridians would be useful. As he said that, he took the opportunity to squeeze a few more times. Tang Tian, you have to defeat Xia. This proverb wasn't made up by Mu Lei. He felt that his thinking was too ridiculous. Without activating his blood meridians, Tang Tian's strength was only at the 5th level, which was indeed very bad. Usually, a teenager at this age would definitely have activated his blood meridians, even if the level was not high, even if there were not many types. The pressure that the black-clothed swordsman gave him was too much. That lingering sense of death almost made him feel like he was dancing with the Grim Reaper. Mu Lei was quite disdainful. Tang Tian was also slightly stunned, but his attention was immediately attracted by something else. That's the Black Mountain City. Is it called Yaya? Gu Shui didn't care whether Yaya was strong or not. In her eyes, Yaya was too cute. She stretched out her hands and asked with a face full of expectation, "Can I hug you?" Gu Shui suppressed the fear in her heart, forced a smile and said with a trembling voice, "I'm fine with it." Tang Tian let out a long sigh, and the young lad's pupils gradually calmed down. As expected, this outsider wasn't worth looking forward to. The killing intent that was like a dagger on his back, like maggots in his bones, left a deep impression on him. Tang Tian couldn't help but think, if he were to meet Xia again, what methods would he use to deal with this terrifying black-clothed swordsman? Tang Tian suppressed the cold in his heart, turned and asked Mu Lei, "Who is he?" Tang Tian grinned. He did not reveal his true thoughts. He did not mind being mocked, but he would not reveal his wild ambitions and arrogance in front of anyone. Ever since it swallowed the star spirit snake's spirit nucleus, Yaya had fallen into a deep sleep, and at this moment Yaya suddenly woke up. It drilled out from the Aquarius Marshall cabinet, and with a "pa" sound, it jumped onto Tang Tian's shoulder. A very poor commoner. Hearing that, the others quietly packed up. Tang Tian still had a lingering fear in his heart and did not notice Mu Lei's gaze. Mu Lei looked at Tang Tian's gaze, filled with amazement. Xia's sneak attack was without any warning. If he was in Tang Tian's position, he would definitely not be able to detect it. But Tang Tian actually dodged Xia's sure kill. In his heart, there was actually a faint desire to fight with the opponent again. Although he knew that his strength was not enough to fight against Xia. But this desire, once it appeared, actually became stronger and stronger. He is Xia. Mu Lei's expression was extremely ugly, his tone mixed with a trace of fear. Phylon Star's most famous dark swordsman, it is said that in his body flows the curtain of darkness blood meridians, the top of the silver-ranked blood meridians. His sword techniques are extremely strong, and there are few who are his match. The number of experts who died under his sword is uncountable. He is famous for not recognizing people for money, and the price he charges is very expensive. Every time he makes a move, regardless of winning or losing, it is 5 million star coins. Yaya. Tang Tian glanced at Yaya sinisterly. "Such a shameless fellow. I will take care of you later. You dare to grab my hair, you are dead meat." The rest of the people's gazes were also extremely weird. Gu Shue's beautiful snow-white face still had a few traces of fear. At this moment she smiled, gorgeous beyond compare. Abaili was immediately stunned. "I am not fierce at all." Mu Lei looked at Yaya. He already did not have any expectations for Tang Tian. A Bud Spirit General was such a low-level Spirit General. There was basically no value. Tang Tian actually raised such a low-level Spirit General. Although the Bud Spirit General did not have a time limit like the Spirit Generals summoned by Spirit cards, but its fighting power was almost zero. Basically no one would choose a Bud Spirit General as a battle assistant. The half-asleep Yaya was startled awake by Gu Shue's scream. With a squeak, it bounced up from Tang Tian's shoulder, somersaulting and landing on Tang Tian's head. This. What kind of rhythm was this when it just woke up? Abaili whistled. "Tang Tian, this is definitely the most unique Spirit General I have ever seen." With an unkind expression, he grabbed Yaya from his head and very stealthily pinched it a few times, taking revenge on Yaya for tearing its hair. The pitiful Yaya was like plasticine, being ruthlessly ravaged. Its expression froze on its face. It was completely unprepared for the sudden disaster. "Is that so?" Tang Tian completely did not hear Ah Bai Li's joke. He did not care. Although Yaya is not very powerful, but it is very smart. But Spirit General? Is it very powerful? Gu Shue's eyes lit up. She was completely defenseless against such a cute little thing. She had never seen such a cute Spirit General before. Glancing at little Mrs. Pale Fingers that were grabbing onto Tang Tian's arm, Mu Lei retracted his gaze and said to Tang Tian, "I will have to trouble Brother Tang to take care of little miss. Thank you very much." Mu Lei's fists suddenly clenched tightly. It was better to rely on himself than anyone else. "I will definitely not let you hurt little miss." Yaya, who had escaped from the devil's clutches, was like a koala hugging onto Gu Shue's fingers, rubbing and cupping them. "Tang Tian, you have to do your best." The pitiful Yaya, once again suffering from the evil hands, rolled his eyes. "Weren't you praising me?" Ah Bai Li stuck out his tongue. Yaya was not bribed by Gu Shue's goodwill. Its small eyes were like two protruding mung beans, and it bared its teeth at Gu Shue. "A bud Spirit General." Mu Lei was knowledgeable. Seeing Yaya, he immediately recognized it. "Tang Tian, you have to become stronger." A powerful Spirit General was an outstanding helper. Of course, this was related to financial strength. The richer the Spirit General, the better. This was common sense. On the other hand, the weaker the Spirit General, the poorer the opponent. This conjecture was in line with the majority of situations. Hearing this, Tang Tian heaved a sigh of relief. His tranquil eyes slowly became firm. However, seeing that Tang Tian had just saved little Miss's life, he tried to make his words sound more tactful. Mu Lei could only use these words to comfort himself, but when he looked at Tang Tian, his gaze became peaceful. He looked at little Miss, whose face was pale with fear and his heart ached. Gu Shui grabbed onto Tang Tian tightly. Her face was pale, her beautiful brown eyes were filled with fear and dread. "Shut up, Ah Bai Li." Mu Lei's angry roar exploded behind the two of them. He was obviously extremely dissatisfied with Ah Bai Li's demoralizing words. "All right, he was a foreigner. Let's go." Mu Lei immediately changed his mind. "We will enter the city tonight." Tang Tian straightforwardly nodded his head. "No problem." This kind of fellow was too scary. Tang Tian and the rest were already halfway up the mountain. Below their feet was a winding mountain road looking down the mountain. At the foot of the mountain far away, there was a brightly lit city, like a gigantic beast quietly squatting in the night. Chapter 133. Everyone lowered their heads and did not say a word. Even the usually lively Ah Bai Li was biting his lips tightly. His fists were clenched so tightly that his knuckles turned white. The other guards were all indignant, their eyes red. Only Xianxia was left. When he said that, Mu Lei looked at Tang Tian. Mu Lei was experienced. Upon seeing the expressions of the soldiers, his heart sank. He knew that something must have happened. Gu Shui, who was playing with Yaya, frowned. "Uncle Mu." Tang Tian was a righteous and kind young man. She suddenly bent down, bowed and said seriously, "Thank you everyone for sending me here." He kowtowed to Mu Lei and Gu Shui 3 times, then picked up the few of them and walked out, 1 foot deep and 1 foot shallow. "What? You want to be a hero and save the damsel in distress?" Bing floated out. His tone was filled with ridicule. Gu Shui did not raise her head. She was minding her own business and playing with Yaya, extremely calm. Mu Lei's eyes turned red, his fists clenched tightly. Mu Lei laughed out loud. He took out a wine pouch and gulped it down. The strong alcohol spilled out from the corner of his mouth, wetting his clothes, but he did not care, and in one breath he poured the entire pouch into his mouth. The soldiers guarding the city were familiar with Mu Lei and the rest, but when they saw Mu Lei and the rest, their expressions were weird. They could imagine the attack that awaited them the next day would definitely be like the pressure of MT Tai. The opponent actually dared to do such a thing. That meant that they had absolute confidence. The soldiers did not stop them, and the group entered the city smoothly, but Tang Tian noticed that there were shadows moving in the shadows. Tang Tian frowned slightly. He whispered to Gu Shui, "I smell danger." Tang Tian felt that it was powerful. "Enter the city," Mu Lei immediately said. Her heart was filled with gratitude towards Tang Tian. What did her fate have to do with Tang Tian? Tang Tian had already saved her once. He had no obligation to be responsible for her fate. There was absolutely no chance of victory. Instead, the probability of death was more than 90%. What was the point of such a battle? Gu Shui's expression calmed down. She looked up at the sky and stretched out her hand to catch a snowflake. She murmured softly, I remember when I was young, every time it snowed, my father would build a snowman with me here. It's snowing again today. Father in heaven must be afraid that I'll be lonely. I'm not leaving. Uncle Mu. Gu Shui turned around and looked at Mu Lei. Gu Shui looked at the courtyard that was almost in ruins, and a trace of heartache flashed in her eyes. This was her home and it was filled with memories of her childhood. Mu Lei's gaze seemed to be able to kill. He suddenly remembered that when they entered the city, the soldiers had a weird expression on their faces. Xianxia clenched his teeth tightly. He did not dare to speak. He was afraid that if he loosened his grip, his tears would flow out. The blue and white dress spread out like the sky and clouds. Bing could not help but scold. Was this guy crazy? Bang bang bang. Unknowingly, snowflakes started to fall from the sky. I'm going home. What trouble can there be? Gu Shui playfully winked at Tang Tian. Tang Tian turned into a corner and stopped. He turned and disappeared into the street. She's a very good person. Tang Tian did not answer the question. He raised his head and looked at the night sky. He muttered to himself, if such a person were to die like this, it would be such a pity. She was extremely intelligent. She could understand Mu Lei's desperation in such a suffocating situation. But her feelings towards Tang Tian were different. Tang Tian had saved her life. Boss. Bai Li sobbed. Before he could speak, a black shadow flashed. His expression froze. Plop, he fell to the ground. Mu Lei moved like the wind. His hands were extremely accurate. Immediately, everyone fell to the ground and fainted. Suddenly, a series of footsteps came from outside. Tang Tian tilted his head and looked at Gu Shui, who had a serious face. His brown eyes flashed with sincerity. Gu Shui retracted her gaze. She sat on the ground. Even at that moment she did not look like she was in a mess. It was as if she was not sitting in the mud. Instead she was sitting on a warm and soft leather chair. Let's pack up. Gu Shui calmed down and said softly, let's make some space for everyone to rest. Tang Tian looked at Gu Shui for a moment. Suddenly he scratched his head and laughed. That's true. What danger can there be at home? Then I'll leave first. He clenched his teeth tightly. Tears blurred his vision. Hot teardrops slid down his cheeks. Black Mountain City was much bigger than Star Wind City. It was extremely majestic. The towering watchtowers were densely packed together like a fence. According to Mu Lei, there would often be star spirit beasts roaming around. The watchtowers were built to guard against star spirit beasts. And the soldiers guarding the watchtowers were at least at the 5th level of power. Mu Lei met the young Miss gaze. His face turned red. He was a little flustered. I'm not leaving either. Xianxia shook his head. How many soldiers were needed to guard the densely packed watchtowers? Every single one of them was at least at the 5th level of power. That was enough to prove that the standard of Black Mountain City was higher than Rainbow City. When they attacked the Yu clan, Tang Tian had charged through the watchtowers. If those arrows were shot by a 5th level martial artist, Tang Tian felt that he would not be able to charge through. So I've said so much for nothing? Bing was unhappy. Please leave. Gu Shui bowed again. Please don't let me live in guilt for the rest of my life just because of tonight. Hearing that, Mu Lei exploded. His hair and beard stood on end. All of you scram. Whoever dares to stop in front of me again, I'll kill him myself. Gu Shui smiled peacefully. The night breeze blew her blue and white dress. The golden dress was torn and tattered. But she was still elegant and gentle. Mu Lei was a strong martial artist who looked down on ordinary soldiers. But Tang Tian did not have such thoughts. Every day he would be scolded by Bing that he was not even comparable to a recruit. In Tang Tian's eyes, the recruits who left the recruit barracks were all powerful martial artists. They had thought that the situation would be bad. But they did not expect it to be this bad. The opponent had already destroyed the entire place. It showed how unscrupulous they were. Seeing Xianxia disappear into the night, Mu Lei put down the last worry in his heart. He took out a wine bag and passed it to Gu Shui. Miss, drink a few mouthfuls to warm up your body. Gu Shui's smile remained the same. She said softly, let's go. Mu Lei retracted his gaze. He was a practical person. He felt that it was not polite. Because he did not want to agitate Tang Tian, He did not say that all of the soldiers had activated more than one blood meridian. They were truly powerful. Bing was stunned when he heard that. Although Bing often heard arrogant words coming out of Tang Tian's mouth, but none of those words had a greater impact on him than what he had just heard. Damn it. Sounds powerful. Tang Tian's face was full of surprise. He did not seem to be faking it. He was familiar with Tang Tian. He could tell that he was serious. You're in trouble, aren't you? Tang Tian suddenly said. Abaili casually found a piece of wood from the ruins. He lit a fire. Everyone surrounded the fire. The atmosphere was oppressive. Tang Tian rolled his eyes. But I don't want her to die. Everyone has done their duty. Please leave. Gu Shui had a peaceful smile on her face. I did not expect things to become so bad. Any struggle now is meaningless. I have the blood of the Gu family in me. They will not kill me. You all have your own families. Please do not make unnecessary sacrifices. Who do you think you are? Bing curled his lips. Are you a savior? Or a great hero? Please don't just complete the chamber of the bronze figures. You don't know what you're capable of. Tang Tian unhurriedly threw down this sentence, and was already following the shadows of the street, heading towards the direction where Gu Shui and the rest had disappeared. Mu Lei's face was full of scars. He was as cold as a rock. He regained his calmness. You all leave. Since things have come to this, there is nothing we can do. Don't waste your lives. Neither. Tang Tian shook his head. He looked calm, but don't you think it's a pity? Gu Shui took the wineskin, pulled out the cork and took a small sip. Her snow-white face immediately blushed. The wine was too strong and too spicy. Gu Shui could not help but frown. Xia was strong. Even from Bing's point of view, he was very strong. Tang Tian could not contend against him. But when he heard Tang Tian say that he wanted to spar with Xia again, he did not hide his intention to fight. Made him fall into a trance. Oppressive. A deathly oppressive feeling. Protect the young mistress, Mu Lei said in a low voice. The other guards looked solemn as if they were facing a great enemy. Abaili bit his lips. He said angrily, I'm not leaving. Also, if I help them I might meet Xia. I want to spar with him seriously. If it was anyone else, their first reaction in such a critical situation would be to dodge. Tang Tian's first reaction was to save her. In such a dangerous situation there was no time to think. Everything was instinctive. Gu Shui stopped what she was doing. She raised her head, turned her face and smiled at Tang Tian. There are some dangers that cannot be avoided. She gently placed Yi, who had a satisfied look on her face, back onto Tang Tian's shoulders, and said with a serious expression, You better leave quickly, find an inn and settle down. If you want to leave Phylan's star it will be more difficult. But if you ask around there will be a way. I wish you success. Thank you for saving my life. What has it got to do with me? I'm just an instructor. Bing waved his hand. In the night, a figure walked along the shadow of the wall. He was extremely stubborn. Mu Lei nodded. The rest of them started to clean up the ruins. Bring them away. Mu Lei stared at Xianxia. Xianxia, you are the calmest. I'll leave them to you. If they die, what will happen to their families? I've lived enough. What about you guys? Even if you don't think for yourself, you have to think for your families. Leave tonight. Remember, don't stop. The snow was getting heavier. I'm not leaving either. Tang Tian waved at her and said loudly, I'm leaving. Chapter 134. Tang Tian struck a weird pose, a horse stance, both arms extended, 10 fingers opened as though he was hugging a big ball. The faint blue light penetrated deep into the great monument palm. A rank 5 martial technique was not a threat to Dewey at all. Dewey did not let his guard down. He could not tell what kind of blood meridians this young lad had activated. Great monument palm. Tang Tian's eyes flashed with a ray of light that was as sharp as a blade. Gu Shui shook her head. Thank you, Cousin Wu, for your kindness, but I'll stay here tonight. I don't want to go anywhere else. Blood splattered everywhere. The wound was dyed with the faint blue light. It looked extremely terrifying. Gu Wu could not help but reveal a suspicious look. He looked around but did not find anyone else. The suspicion in his heart grew. With Mu Lei's strength, it was impossible for him to protect Gu Shui's life under Xia's sword. Unless someone was helping? Without hesitation he turned around and charged. With a big stride he twisted his waist and threw a punch. The green flame gathered at his fist at an astonishing speed. Wisps of flame revolved around his fist at an extremely fast speed. This fog was like a formless spider web tightly covering him. Dewey snorted, "You're courting death." Dewey, who was rushing into the concussion punch, suddenly stopped. The vibrations that were everywhere struck his body and immediately caused his muscles to stiffen. The palm print was as firm as a monument. Scram! An unfamiliar voice suddenly exploded beside Gu Wu's ear. The fist aura was like two bubbles easily burst. His body was actually forcefully fixed in the air. Poof! When Gu Wu heard the two words Xia, his pupils constricted. With a quiver, the greed in his eyes disappeared. Xia? Curtain of the Night Swordsman Xia. You guys met him? Ah. Seeing that Gu Shui was getting closer, Gu Wu's heart was burning with passion. He laughed maniacally. "Cousin Shui, from today onwards you're mine." Overestimating yourself. Gu Wu laughed coldly. He lowered his head and threw punch after punch. In the blink of an eye he had sent out 12 fire tornadoes. 12 fire tornadoes revolved around Mu Lei's body, forming a cyan ring of fire. Wherever the fire tornadoes passed, the fog was instantly burned away. It had been 200 years since a young man with the Snow Rainbow bloodline had appeared in the Gu family. The Gu family's desire for the Snow Rainbow blood meridians was something that outsiders could not understand. Every time a child was born, they would think of ways to check if they had the Snow Rainbow bloodline. However, there was one type that could not be detected, and that was the recessive bloodline. Mu Lei used slow speed to fight fast. His power was like 1,000 caddies, while Dewey was unpredictable, fast like lightning. Heaven-spinning fire fist. His left hand clenched into a fist. Countless shattered ripples were grasped in his palm like a spider web. Tang Tian's original creation, the vibration circle. "Brat, you dare." Mu Lei glared angrily, his fists suddenly blasting towards Gu Wu in the air. No matter what, he had to capture Gu Shui and bring him back tonight. When the rice is cooked, no one would be able to do anything about it. Facing Dewey, Tang Tian brazenly rushed forward. Mist shadow blood meridians, silver blood meridians, could transform into mist, and was extremely difficult to deal with. But Mu Lei had no fear in his heart. His sky-green blood meridians was also a silver blood meridians. Indigo Thorn was a rank 6 martial technique. The difference of one rank meant that the power of the two were not on the same level. A tall and sturdy man surrounded by a crowd rushed in. He was Gu Wu. He had an aquiline nose, long and narrow eyes, thin and sharp lips. His brown eyes were exactly the same as Gu Shui's. He stared at Gu Shui greedily and passionately. Bang! Young master. Dewey was shocked. Without hesitation he abandoned Mu Lei and pounced towards Tang Tian. He extended his arm, his 5 fingers hooked. Gu Wu's face flushed red. But in the blink of an eye he returned to normal. His body did not change and continued to pounce towards Gu Shui on the ground. Mu Lei opened his eyes. His slightly drunk eyes flashed with a sharp intent. Supporting his arm without saying a word, Mu Lei took out another wine pouch and gulped it down. Gu Shui sat upright, both hands gently holding the wine pouch as though he did not hear the hurried footsteps. Dewey lightly shook the dagger in his hand. The green flame on the dagger dissipated. His expression congealed. Dewey's body suddenly sped up. The surrounding mist suddenly became denser. The dense gray mist from all directions squeezed towards Mu Lei. Mu Lei's eyes widened. A blue dagger, like a blue swimming fish, quietly appeared at the side of Mu Lei's waist. A green shadow and a gray shadow intertwined. From time to time, a deafening collision sound could be heard. Wherever Dewey flashed, he brought the mist with him. The mist in the field became denser and denser. Mu Lei also started to feel the strain. Suddenly, a layer of silver light appeared on his palms. The silver light flickered. Without dodging, he welcomed the 2 green fists and lightly patted. "Gu Wu, I met Xia on the road. Did you send him?" Gu Shui suddenly asked. Mu Lei's hair stood up in anger. The green flame fluttered. "You." Mu Lei looked at him in disdain. 2 words came out from his nose. "You think you're worthy?" "Ah. My dear cousin Shui, you're finally back. I've been waiting anxiously. If anything happens on the road, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Miss doesn't want to leave. Who dares to make a move?" Mulei's body froze. The blue color spread at an alarming speed. Is it here? Snow rainbow blood meridians. Asshole. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. His face remained expressionless. Sister Shui, you've wronged me. Why would I make a move on Sister Shui? I'm waiting for Sister Shui to give birth to a son for me. Bang. Gu Wu's face darkened. Since you don't know what's good for you, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Dewey, there's no need to leave him alive. Tang Tian's eyes lit up. If he used the mist to fight with him, he would find it troublesome. But to fight head-on, Tang Tian was not afraid of him. Dewey's heart shivered. But he was not afraid. He bellowed. The dagger in his hand moved as fast as lightning towards Tang Tian. A fist suddenly appeared in front of Dewey. Dewey's eyes shrunk. He tipped his toes and stopped his body. Mu Lei straightened his body and stood there majestically. His drunken eyes were emitting a piercingly cold light at this moment. Bang. Assholes like you deserve to die. Tang Tian's eyes flashed with disgust. He was filled with killing intent. When he rushed over and saw the scene, he was filled with hatred. The guards around Gu Wu cried out in alarm. Snow rainbow blood meridians. It was the strongest blood meridians in the history of the Gu family. Once it was activated, it would form a beautiful rainbow around the body. In the Gu family, no one did not know about the snow rainbow blood meridians. Because the Gu family's strongest martial technique, Rainbow Blade, required the activation of the snow rainbow blood meridians. Mu Lei's eyes suddenly widened in anger. He roared, "You're looking for death." He did not even have time to scream. Pooh! A fist fiercely hit his abdomen. His body suddenly bent like a prawn. His eyes popped out and his expression froze. Using blood meridians as a killing technique was a common sight in battles. The fiery whirlwind that was moving at lightning speed immediately slowed down. All of you assholes, go and die. A strong killing intent filled his heart. It was the first time he wanted to kill all these people in front of him. 2 rays of green fist aura whistled through the air. Green flames rose from his body. Mu Lei, who was in the flames, looked like a god of war. His right hand clenched into a fist. The green flames gathered at the tip of his fist at an astonishing speed. Then he suddenly elbowed backwards. The great monument palm print exploded without any warning. Dewey only felt the dagger in his hand bouncing off. In a flash, he dissipated the force. Bang. If he did not have the blood meridians, the great monument palm print would definitely not be able to stop his indigo heart thorn. The flames splashed. A figure flew. Gu Wu laughed. Dewey, please invite Miss back to the residence. He felt a shocking force suddenly exploding in front of his palm. It was as if he was hit by a heavy hammer. Rays of dazzling cold blue light interweaved. In Tang Tian's vision, it suddenly lit up. Unknowingly, he had 2 daggers in his hands. With one look, one could tell that the dagger had been dipped in poison. His figure flashed and disappeared into thin air. His legs were rooted to the ground. His waist sank down. He took a deep breath. His chest and abdomen collapsed. All the force in his body surged. He raised his right palm and pushed it out. One by one, the burly men with cold expressions rushed towards Gu Shui. In a panic, he only had time to cover his face with his palm. A wild laugh broke the silence. Gu Wu's speed was originally fast. Just now, when he received the 2 punches from Mu Lei, it looked like nothing had happened. But in fact, it was not as easy as it looked. This was... The hidden blood meridians would only appear after the age of 16. The hidden blood meridians could not be activated. But if the next generation was born, there was a high chance that they would have the snow rainbow blood meridians. Gu Wu laughed. In such a snowy day, how can I let Sister Shui freeze here? Sister Shui, it's better if you go back with me. He thought it was some powerful killing technique. It was just the heavenly dragon energy and its level was not high. The speed of the punch was extremely fast. It was so fast that he had no time to react. Gu Wu's face changed. He did not expect Gu Shui to tell him the secret. The Gu clan did not only have him. He was sure that the news would spread to all the other branches of the Gu clan tonight. 2 rays of blue light crossed each other in the air. Damn. The blue light and the great monument palm print collided without any fancy moves. Gu Wu's eyelids twitched. Before he could react, a fist appeared in his field of vision. Dewey's figure moved like a ghost. He brought along a misty shadow drifting erratically. Muley took a deep breath. The fist technique in his hands changed. He suddenly punched out. A green fire tornado flew out of his hands. Heavenly Green Muley, you really live up to your name. I heard that people with heavenly green blood meridians are loyal and brave. Muley, if you are willing to follow me, I will definitely treat you as my right-hand man. Gu Wu said in a low voice. He looked at Muley with a burning gaze. Those vibration. I think so too. Gu Shui said calmly. Others might not know about the snow rainbow blood meridians in my body, but how would Cousin Wu not know? It's a pity it's a hidden blood meridians. If not, who would dare to be so presumptuous in my house? Cousin Wu, don't you think so? Cousin Shui, seems like you want me to invite you personally. Gu Wu laughed. He stretched out his body. Like a big bird, he pounced towards Gu Shui. It was not the first time that he had seen Gu Shui, but the blushing Gu Shui in front of him still made his breath involuntarily heavy. She was so beautiful. Muley's pupils constricted. Misty shadow. Dewey immediately judged that this brat's power was at the 5th level. Unless he had an extremely powerful blood meridians, if not he would definitely win today. Flipping his palm, he held on to the dagger. His body bent slightly like a beast pouncing on its prey. Dewey did not say a word. Wisps of mist emerged from his body, congealing and not dispersing. Dewey's body disappeared in a flash. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.